Okay. I think I'm in. If anybody's here, bear with me as I don't actually know what the heck I'm doing, as this is the first time I've ever done this. So I'm gonna go ahead and shut my curtains. Okay, let's see. Looks like I have 4 people here. Hello, everyone. I'm hoping you can all see me. This is gonna be interesting. Again, I don't know what the heck I'm doing, so let's try this. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Yeah, feel free to chat in the comments, ask me questions, whatever. I want this to be super chill, super just hangouty. I got my tea all ready, so I got some, in my wonderful tardigrade water bear mug. I got a snack because it's gonna last all afternoon. I'm sure I'm gonna get hungry, so let's do it. Oh, that was really hot. Okay. So today, I just burned the crap out of my tongue. Today I'm working on this quilting kit that I got from my mom just last week. And I kind of ended up covering it up. And it is a sea star pattern. So this is what it's supposed to look like at the end. If some of you guys know from watching this channel, I really love sea stars. I love tide pools. I love ocean creatures and marine biology. And this is actually the same quilt company that I got this tide pool table runner from that I made a couple months ago. And so now I have another quilt kit from them, and I'm excited to make it. Oh, I got asked what type of tea I'm drinking. I am drinking peppermint tea because when so kind of weird story, or when I got married a couple years ago, and I used tea tins to put my flower arrangements in, and so then I ended up with like literally 200 bags of peppermint tea because I needed the tea tins, but not the tea, but it was cheaper to buy the tea tins and the tea. So now I have 200 bags of peppermint tea that a year and a half later, I am still drinking. So all I've done for this pattern so far is kind of open it and take my fabric out and washed it and ironed it. So you're going to witness me trying to read this pattern in real time. But I figured I'll just show off the fabrics that are in this quilt because I personally think the fabrics are like my favorite part of that. So there's this nice sea star blue teal one. That's quite nice. There's the nice kind of teal little fishies. Woohoo. And if you have a favorite fabric as I'm showing them to you, please let me know. I know what my favorite is. There's this nice kind of tan spotted one. Same fishies, but in dark blue. Kind of also spotted, but a little bit of a lighter tan. Some cool seashell patterns. So, in like a brownish with some blue undertones, I guess. Some seashells in a different color, so same pattern, just different color. Ooh, more fishies in a kind of a lighter blue color. Some seahorses. This one's real fun. Ooh, this is one of my personal favorites. These are some jellyfish, but on like a dark blue fabric. It's nice. Just a kind of a tan swirly. Oh, and then I'll spoil it already. This one's my all-time favorite. This is sea urchin skeletons. So a couple weeks ago, I lost track of time. I made a sea urchin skeleton hat. So same pattern here. Got another kind of dark tan swirly. More jellyfish. Love the jellyfish. This one's kind of hard to see, but it's another one of the shell pattern just on super faint tan. And then finally we rounded out with more fishies, but on kind of a greenish blue. So those are all the fabrics I had. I love the jellyfish and sea urchin ones, and I'm excited to make this. The quilt kit also comes with a bunch of sea stars already cut out. to put on this quilt, which makes me very excited because if you guys watched my tide pool quilting video, the worst part about that was cutting out all of the tiny little animal shapes. So I don't have to do that, which is good because, oh, I think I just dropped one. There are a bunch of sea stars. Did I just drop one? Or not? Okay, but here's more sea stars. I'm going to keep them in here so that I don't lose them. And then here is what I presume is the pattern. I think this is just kind of the front. So let's see what we're working with. And hello to everybody who's joined, and hello to everybody from all different places all over the world. That's super cool. I didn't ever think that I would be doing this kind of thing in my life where people from all over the world would watch me just quilt. Do some science quilting, do some science. That's fun. Okay. Ooh. Let's see. I'm gonna open this. All right. Ooh. So we got a long list of step 1. Pre-wash all fabrics to block and remove excess dye. Already did that, friends. Already ahead of the game. Okay, step 2. Cut the following selvage to selvage, and then we just have like a very long list of strips to cut out. Whew. Okay. Oh, okay. Read too much ahead. Okay. So first I'm going to start out by trying to figure out what pattern, which fabric corresponds to what the instructions tell me to do. So that's kind of the hardest part, is figuring out like what is the, like, oh, it says like aqua this, like, but which fabric does that actually mean here? Yeah. Sorry if this isn't really entertaining. This is the first time I've ever done this, which I think I've already mentioned like 10 times already. But here we are. 1 10-inch strip of each, subcut each strip into 3 10 by 10 squares. Okay. So it says there are 3 dark prints. Let's see if I agree that there are 3 dark prints. So I think this is 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, there are 4 that I would consider to be a dark print. Oh no. See if I can figure it out. Let's see, is there a list of what I'm supposed to do? Oh, here's a list. Oh, there we go. Okay, it tells me what the dark prints are. Dark blue jellyfish, blue/brown jellyfish, and blue. Okay. Okay, so these are the 3 it's considering to be dark prints. Put those in a pile together. And then medium prints, blue/green sea urchin. So that's this one. Aquafish print. We think this is the aquafish print. I think that's the aquafish print. Aqua starfish print. Yay, there's only one that has starfish on it. Sweet. Green fish print. Ooh, this one was green. Okay. I'm not losing it. And light. Okay, so that's my medium prints. Light blue seashell print. Okay. So I make weird faces a lot, so you'll probably see those a lot in the duration of this video. Light blue seashell print. Do we think... Do we think this is the light blue seashell print? It is. It's like very light blue. I'm very confused. Okay. Okay. So light blue seashell print, like gray seashell print, gray fish print, and the seahorse. Luckily, there's only one with seahorses. There it is. All right. Neutral seashell print. That one feels pretty neutral. Light tan solid. Neutral dot. Neutral dot. And white dot. Okay. Tan solid. I think I have an extra piece of fabric. Oh, I just completely missed one. Okay. Inner border. Brown seashell print inner border. Beautiful. Okay. I'm sorry. I think I come off as smarter when I have prepared, and I promise I am smart. But quilting and fabric just really makes you question whether or not you can count or assign or follow instructions, honestly. You're about to watch me probably do some really sketchy math. Okay, I'm going to move to the floor because that has way more space than this desk area. So, and then we can start cutting out, and hopefully I will start talking about something that is not just, what's it called? The fabric patterns. Hello. Welcome to my floor. Grab that mat. And I left the instructions. Okay. So if anybody has any questions about what I'm doing or anything about me or anything about sea stars or the ocean, or science, anything, I'll do my best to answer them as well as I can. Okay. 1 strip, 10 strips of each, cut each strip into 3 times. Okay, my dark prints. Oh, these are just so pretty. And I'm so excited to make this. Okay, I got asked, what's a quilt? So I feel like there's probably some actual strict definition to what a quilt is, or like some actual technical definition. But to me, I think quilting just involves like piecing together a bunch of different fabrics to make kind of like a greater pattern. And usually they're like blanket format, so they're like would cover, put them on a bed, put them over a couch. You can use them to keep warm. So you have your top piece that would be like, oh yeah, so I can use like, this is a pretty good example of like, there's this top piece of fabric that is super decorated and everything, and then there's a plain back piece of fabric, and they're stitched together. It's easier to see the stitching on the back of this, stitched together in a cool pattern, and then it can just act like a table runner, or if you make it bigger, it would be a blanket. But kind of the idea is that you're putting together a lot of different pieces of fabric to make something bigger. So each of these pieces of fabric I have are really not that big. Like, I honestly don't know if I don't have like 5 yards of any one of these specific types of fabrics, but when I sew them all together, they can make something big and make something really cool. And this one just happens to be in a ocean theme because I thought that would be fun. I'm actually kind of a sneak peek for hopefully next week's video, in the middle of making a quilted dress that features a sciencey pattern. So that's gonna be fun. Let me count here real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Perfect. Oh, my rotary cutter is up there. BRB. But I've made several quilts before. Or not several. I think I've made probably 5 or 6 quilts so far in my life. So I made a Peanuts, like Charlie Brown, Snoopy themed one for my grandma for Christmas a couple years ago. I have made 2 Harry Potter quilts. I've made that tide pool one, a Christmas one, and a Halloween one. Yeah, that sounds right. I don't know how many that was. Hopefully somebody else was counting. So 10-inch strip of each, cut each into 3. Okay. So hopefully that explained what a quilt was. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But the first step is always like cutting, no matter what you're doing, is always cutting out all of your pieces to the right size, which takes the longest amount of time. And then you're like, oh my gosh, I finally cut out all of my pieces, and now I have to sew them all together. But done right, I think it's a soothing task, or you could do it really stressed out. 8, 9, 10. Okay, somebody asked, what's your favorite sea creature and why? Okay, my all-time favorite sea creature and all-time favorite animal is the killer whale or the orca. They have been my personal favorite since I was like very, very small child. When I was little, my family lived in Washington State, and there was a killer whale that had gotten, like a baby killer whale or a young one that had gotten separated from its pod, so the rest of its killer whale family, and stuck in like the Sound. And that was on the news every day of like them trying to figure out like, okay, how do we get this whale back with its pod? Is it just gonna join it? Can it like live without its family? All that kind of stuff. And I would just sit there and watch the news every single day and just like want to hear about the whale. So since then, killer whales have been my favorite animal. I think they're just very impressive and like so smart. They have they're like human. I think I've talked about killer whales a little bit on this channel and like a little bit on my Instagram. They're so smart. They're so impressive. They are very human. Like they have their own little dialects. They'll talk to each other in their own communities. They have fashion trends. Like they're just so cool. Yeah, they're pretty rad. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I think other than like a killer whale, or other than like big kind of sea creatures, I'm trying to think of what else. I really do love starfish. I studied them for a couple years in college, and I just they're also just really cool the way they move around and can operate, even though they like don't have they don't really have a central nervous system. They don't have, I guess, truly a brain the way you and I have a brain, but they're still so capable of so much. And then like honestly, they are so incredibly strong when they cling onto or some species of them are so incredibly strong when they cling onto rocks that it's like you can't pull them off the rocks, and you're like, literally, you don't have a brain. Why am I losing this battle to an animal that doesn't have a brain? Okay, I got one set. Okay, because it says subcut each strip into 3 10 by 10 inch squares. Okay. This is gonna be a lot. Okay, let's see. I have okay. Oh my gosh. Trying to read and cut at the same time is a little bit of a struggle. This did say selvage, right? Okay. Let's see. Is it true if you cut off a C-star limb, it will grow back? That is true. They do have the capability to, like, if they lose an arm due to predation, they can grow it back. Sometimes they'll actually, even if like they're being grabbed by something, they'll even just like drop an arm. Like if it didn't even get bitten off, they'll just be like, goodbye. You have a hold of my arm, but I said goodbye to that arm. And then they will grow it back because they have amazing regenerative properties, which is really cool. Their larvae, so their babies, which are what I studied in college, even have the ability to clone themselves as well. So a sea star larva can like drop off a little piece of its arm, and the arm will go a new larvae, and the other larvae will grow back into a new sea star. Or the larvae can also split themselves in half and like regrow the other half. So they have amazing regenerative properties. Sometimes like compared to a lot of the animal kingdom, humans are just kind of not as cool, but then humans are also cool in other good ways, so it all balances out in the end. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. This is kind of hard to keep track of. Does anybody have like their favorite sea creature they want to type out in the comments and let us know about? Because also, if you say something I've never heard of, I want to look it up and learn more about it. Oh, we got sharks and manta rays. Both very good options. I mean, I think anything that lives in the ocean is like... Okay, I think almost all animals are unusual in their own special way. But animals that live in the ocean, I think, are just like extra wild because they have almost everything like animals on land have to deal with, except for like they're underwater. So then they're like, oh, we gotta breathe. Oh, we gotta figure out different dynamics of movement. But although the animals in water can grow a lot bigger because they don't have to worry about gravity squishing them if they got too big because they're supported by all that water. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I saw some other ones. Okay, clownfish. Those are rad. Ooh, just favorite animals in general, beavers and bison, due to them both being keystone species. I like it. And favorite sea creature is the Greenland shark. Those are so funky. I was actually in Iceland. Is that the right number? In a couple of years ago with my family. And that was one of the things that they let us like try, was like the fermented Greenland shark. I, for one, did not try it because I'm not out here trying to eat something that smelled like actual ammonia. But it's very interesting that they have, if you are unaware of this, Greenland shark contain so much ammonia in their bodies that, due to the way their urinary system works, that you have to ferment the shark for a long enough period of time for you to be able to actually eat it and like not go blind or die from eating it because of the amount of ammonia. But even after that, it's still very ammonia-y. My dad did try it. He said it was not an unpleasant experience. I also like the fact that you mentioned beavers and bison and being keystone species. This actually connects to this quote. The original keystone species, and I'll explain what that is in a second if you're unfamiliar with the term, was actually a sea star. So a sea star that I studied in college called the Pisaster or ochre sea star. They were considered to be the first original keystone species, and a keystone species is an animal that is considered to have a greater impact on like the ecosystem and everything surrounding it compared to its relative amount in the ecosystem. So like plants are obviously very important for the ecosystem because everything eats something that ate a plant at some point in its life. But there are a lot of plants around. But bison or a beaver or a sea star have a very big effect on their ecosystem, but there's not a lot of them in return. So beavers chop down trees and alter streams when they build their dams, and bison graze a lot and impact the ecosystem that way. But the sea stars became known as keystone species by how much and how many oysters they ate. So sea stars, one of their main, specifically the ochre sea star, like I'm talking about, one of their main food items is the mussel. And they would go around the tide pools, eat up all of these mussels. And when all these mussels were gone, it left space for other animals to come in and live in the space the mussels were growing in. When the sea stars were removed from the ecosystem, all of the mussels dominated and nothing else could live there because there was too many mussels living in that space for other animals to thrive. So sea stars, specifically the Pisaster ochraceus or ochre sea star, were the original keystone species, coined by ecologist Robert Payne. And this is the man that, like, you Google him, you'll see like pictures of him. You just pick up sea stars off of the like rocks and just throw them back into the ocean to just kind of examine their effect on the surrounding tidal system. I'm doing more talking than I am cutting. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But yeah. Oh, animals are so cool. So much fabric. Just realized that I actually need, in addition to these squares that I'm currently cutting, I need a different amount, another like subset of strips out of the same fabric, so I'm gonna have to go back and recut them. But oh well, we're just trying our best out here. Ooh, got asked favorite non-marine animal. Ooh, that's a tough one. Oh, what is my favorite non-marine animal? I just love marine animals so much. I love whales in particular are just my favorite. Trying to think of what I would get excited about seeing at a zoo. I mean, bison are pretty cool. I don't know if I would count them as my favorite non-marine animal. But I do really like seeing bison out. Like, I've been to Yellowstone and some other areas in South Dakota where they're out, and just like seeing them is very cool. They're just like, this is a bison. Bison look exactly how I think they should look like, which makes me very happy. What else? Is my mind blanking on every other animal species that could possibly ever exist right now? Yes, it is. Hold up, let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. Oh, what other animals exist? I can tell you this, it's not a bird. I don't like birds. I don't trust birds. They scare me. I won't lie. Oh, what else is out there? Yeah, I think in the absence of another animal right now, I think I might just say a bison. Because I do enjoy seeing them. Ooh, but I just don't know if that's truly the answer. I just love whales so much. Ooh, somebody loves fruit bats. Fruit bats are pretty cool. Oh my gosh, yeah, bats are amazing. Forget the entire existence of bats. I love bats. Especially because they're like related to Halloween, or like they're often in Halloween decorations, and I love Halloween. So bats are a good one. Super important for the ecosystem too. Yeah, so I'm glad I could let you know that sea stars were the original keystone species. So I should be here until my goal is 5 Eastern time. Is anybody still watching by then? I definitely will still have work to do by then. Just kind of hanging out all afternoon. I get to just hang out with you guys, which is super fun. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. How about all of you guys' favorite animals of all time, regardless of where they live? I don't know if that changes from marine to non-marine. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's see. Yes, okay, we like pelicans. Pelicans are pretty cool, I will admit, even if they are birds. Also, I feel like half the time I do think of pelicans, though. I think of the pelicans from Finding Nemo, and like Nemo and his dad like swimming around in the pelican's mouth. But they are pretty cool. Birds are cool. I just don't trust them. They can fly. Canadian geese scare me. Just birds. Oh, pangolins are cool. I don't know a lot about penguins, but they are very cute. And I think one time I owned them in my zoo on Zoo Tycoon, so I'm a big fan. Okay, I got my 3 10 by 10 squares of each dark fabric done. I'm gonna grab a pencil so that I can check these off and keep track of what I'm doing. Okay. Oh, so let's see. Next, I have to do... See, I'm very confused about how this works. I want to make sure I don't run out of fabric. Okay. Excuse me. But I don't think I have to... I think that once I go through each one, I don't need it. So I think I'm safe. Okay. Because I would really suck to run out of this fabric. That's the other scary part about quilting, is that you can just sometimes... You're like, oh, I don't actually know how much I need. And then you're stuck going back to the store and hoping they have what you need. But this came in a quilt kit, so I'm hoping, they actually supply me with everything I need. 1 5-inch strip. Subcut each strip into 2 5-inch by 3. Oof, okay. I need to cut a 5-inch strip. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see, what else can we talk about on this fine day? Actually, it's cold outside. Probably not as cold as the person who's here from Norway, but it is, or anywhere that's like, you know, more north than I'm currently located. But it is cold for here. 5-inch by 3.5. 1, 2, 3.5. Half, 1, 2. Nothing like when your brain just decides to stop working. Nope, it's still not working. Okay. Is that 5? That's not a square though. Why is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I can count. I can't count. I don't know if you guys, how many of you guys are into crafting of any sort, sewing, crocheting, knitting, even drawing, anything like artsy. But I always see a lot of like reels that are like, man, you never know that you can't count until you like try to knit something. And it's like, yeah, no, that's true. You don't realize that you may be incapable of counting until you like are knitting something and you realize you don't know how to count. Ooh, we have an art student. That's fun. I don't think that I personally discovered that I was creative or more artsy like after 6 years of going to school for a science degree. But I love the fact that I learned that about myself, and I more am into like knitting, crocheting, sewing, and more of the stuff you see on this channel. And it kind of, I learned them when I was really young in like 3rd grade. My babysitter taught me, and then I kind of fell out of it and then went back into it during COVID and just really have loved it ever since. I love making a lot of my own clothes. I love designing things. And it's been a really fun way to combine science and art together to make something super cool like this. This is art, but this is like science too. It's marine science is talking about it, about a sea star. Let's see. Ooh, yeah, sculpting things out of clay. I tried to get into sculpting one time and it didn't go very well for me. I think I'm not very good at drawing. I'm not great at painting, or I guess not as good as I feel like I want to be. Probably I'm like decent, but I think it's interesting. I feel like when you're in school, at least in the United States, other countries might have different way of approaching this. You take art class and it's all about like drawing, painting, like more paper-based art, I guess. And I don't know the actual technical term for it. And so if you're bad at those, you're like, oh, I'm not very creative at all. Which is kind of how I felt. And then it took me like a while to come to the terms with the fact like, no, I am creative, and it actually takes a lot of creativity to do stuff like scientific research, to come up with new problems, and problem solving. It's all creativity. So like if you're a problem solver and you don't think you're creative, guess what? You are. Even if you can't draw. Drawing is not the metric of creativity. 6.5. 6.5. It's my creativity PSA to everyone. Okay, so I feel like I have, okay, I do. That's why I was like, I feel like I have way too much of that print. Okay, I will use this dark blue jellyfish print later in this quilting saga, but I need a little bit more of it right now. Feels like a waste. Oh, what do we got? I'm trying to think if I have interesting. I've never heard fear of needles as a reason to not getting to sewing. I guess that's true. I feel like there is some worriedness of like just driving a sewing machine needle into my finger. Goodness, I can talk. That is kind of terrifying. Maybe if you like stuck with just hand sewing, that seems a lot safer. Like less speed to your needle, I guess. 1 5-inch. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or you could always get into knitting and just start with some knitting needles, which are not nearly as pointy or as dangerous as sewing needles are. That could always work. Yeah, I can see button sewing is I mean obviously I can sew on a button, but I feel like I'm very bad at sewing on buttons because they always like fall off or get loose. So I can like sew everything else, but I struggle to sew on a button sometimes. 2, 3, 4, 6. Ooh, what is the favorite thing I've made? Ooh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and a half. Ooh, that's a great question. I feel like everything that I feel like every new thing that I make is one of my favorite things. Oh, I've made so many things. Who? I don't even know. I love what I'm let me see. Let me put that there. Okay. What I'm currently making, I'll show you guys. This is a little sneak peek of next week's video. But this current work in progress right here is a DNA outfit. Just don't tell anybody you saw it. This is a secret. No, just kidding. But that is kind of currently my favorite thing. But it's currently working up to be one of my favorite things that I have created. It looks really good so far. So I'm excited to see how that's going to turn out. Ooh. What else? I'm very much love how this thing turned out as well. This was a very intense project, and I'm very excited. I was very excited with how this turned out. That's probably also one of my favorite things I've done. My periodic table sweaters have made me very, very happy. Both of the ones I've made. That when I made the I'm gonna just list everything I've made. The 1950s whatchamacallit, the 1950s like science poodle skirt. Amazing. Like so many good things that I made, which is great because if I kept hating the stuff that I made, I'd probably stop making it. I mean, I think it's nice that I've been able to see. Oh my gosh, I couldn't cut out the right number. Sorry. I think it's so much fun that I've been able to see a lot of progress in what I've made, and like that each time I make something, it's usually better than the last time I made it. What do I do with all the outfits I've made? I wear them. I wear them quite frequently. Not as much right now because most of the stuff I end up making is dresses, and it is too cold right now to be wearing dresses, but I have been wearing like a couple of the sweaters I've made. I usually wear them, and then there's been a couple pieces, like some of the original stuff that I've made, I have either gotten rid of at this point just because it wasn't super well made because it was something older that I had made and I wasn't as good as I am now, or if it's some of my yarn projects, like I unraveled it, basically. I'm like, okay, let's give you a new life. I actually did that with one of the sweaters that I finished a couple months ago. It was originally a Doctor Who scarf that I had crocheted when I was in middle school. It was like 10 feet long, and it like was good for me crocheting in middle school, but like I never wore it. It honestly looked pretty terrible. It didn't have the same width all the way down. It would go like in and out, in and out. So I was like, you know what? I am unraveling this thing and I'm going to give it new life. And I turned it into a sweater. So it kind of depends. Usually they hit a point where I'm like, you know what? I am better than this now. Like I have increased my skill level enough to where I kind of retire it and either repurpose it or just kind of give it away. But I do make stuff to wear because my fashion aesthetic, which tends to be more vintagey, or what I would like it to be, tends to be more vintagey science, and that stuff doesn't really exist in retail stores. 5. So I gotta make it myself. Hence the DNA dress. They don't make flower DNA fabric, so I had to make my own. Okay, what do you prefer? Sewing, quilting, or yarn projects like crochet? That's a good question. So I can tell you that at almost all times, I probably have at least one of each of those working. And I usually do them at different times. So like, if I go over to somebody's house or like at an event or something, I obviously can't bring like my sewing machine and all my sewing with me, so I will take my brain stopped working. I'll take my crochet or knitting project with me, and then bigger projects I usually, or like if I'm sitting at home watching TV in the evening with my husband, usually we'll also do like a knitting or crocheting project, and then during the day or during the evening when we're like working on something separate, I will get out the sewing project and work on the sewing project, which is fun. So currently I have, oh wait, is this exactly the length that I needed it to be? Oh, look at that. Oh, sorry. So it kind of depends on what's going on. So right now I have the DNA project that I just showed you going on, and obviously this quote project that I've just decided to start are my 2 primary sewing projects. Actually, I also have a dress that I started last May that I haven't finished yet because I got mad at it. So that's, I guess, still a sewing work in progress. And then I'm in the middle of knitting. I just started knitting a new sweater from yarn that I got in Ireland, because you betcha I went to Ireland and I bought a whole heck ton of yarn. And now it's finally time to actually make something with it. So that's kind of, I think I like both of them a lot, and I kind of end up actually like going back and forth on them. So I'll sew a lot and then kind of get a little bit burnt out of sewing, and then I'll go to knitting, and then I'll be like, oh my gosh, I never want to do this ever again. And then I'll go back to sewing, and it's just kind of a back and forth between stuff. So I like both of them a lot. It just also depends on what I'm trying to make at the time. So obviously making a sweater would be way more conducive to knitting or crocheting, and making a dress would be way more conducive to sewing. Okay, I'm supposed to be making one more 6.5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so knitting versus crocheting. So I learned how to crochet first, and then I was taught how to knit. And then I realized all along that I had been crocheting incorrectly, and I actually still do not technically crochet with the proper technique. Shh, don't tell anybody. I made up my own technique. Well, I mean, it's not really that different. I just hold the yarn a little bit differently than everybody else. So I think, so crocheting, just as a brief overview for anybody not super familiar with them, crocheting uses what's called a crochet hook. It's just like a little piece of metal or plastic that's got a little hook at the end of it. And knitting uses the 2 knitting needles to make something. Crochet, I think they're easier in terms of different things. So to me, crochet is easier for me to improvise with because it is a lot more free form. You can just kind of you can crochet a square, or you could crochet some sort of shape, and you can just start sticking the crochet needle or the crochet hook into various stitches and just start crocheting off of that. So you don't have to have a set number of stitches, or you don't have to make stitches. You just kind of, I save this piece. What is this from? Oh, you just kind of start crocheting and you can build out a nebulous piece of whatever. Knitting, you have to put your stitches on a needle, and you have to transfer them back and forth between the needles. So you always have stitches that are active, I guess. So if it falls off the needle and you don't get them back on the knitting needle, all your stitches will fall apart and you'll cry. Whereas crochet, also, all your stitches are closed off. You just have one stitch open at a time. So if it falls off the crochet hook, as long as you don't pull on the yarn, you're fine. But you don't have to loop all of the stitches back onto your crochet hook. I think that knitting is easier if you have a harder time counting stitches or figuring out how many stitches you're supposed to make. I think it's way easier to do that with knitting, because knitting, you can see them on your needles and actually count them. It's a little bit harder in crochet to count them. But also, I think that making a circle is harder in knitting versus crochet, and making different shapes is harder in knitting versus crochet because you're tied to your needles. So I think it is very dependent on what you're trying to make and what kind of look you're trying to do. So for example, my periodic table sweater, I wanted to do 2 different colors, and it's way easier to knit between 2 different colors versus crocheting between 2 different colors. So I needed to knit it. But it's easier for me to put together, when I had to put together all of those squares to make the sweater, it was way easier to crochet them together because I didn't have to worry about making a stitch to put on my needle. I could just stick my hook into the squares and crochet them together, which is why that project was a hybrid of both of them, just for the different things that I'm more familiar with. People who are really, really good at knitting could probably have done that no problem and made it look a lot better. But I'm not one of those people, so I did a mixture. That was probably a way overcomplicated answer to the question. I also think that knitting is a teensy bit easier in the fact that there are only kind of sort of only 2 types of stitches you can do, and every pattern that you make is kind of a combination of those stitches, whereas crochet there are more stitches you have to learn. But then I think when you like introduce like cable knitting and different colors, and there's ways to make both of them increasingly more complicated. Knitting is for old people. Maybe that's true. I think I have one time my dad said to me, I was like on a phone call with him, and he was like, "What you doing, Brianna?" And I was like, "Oh, just like sewing some stuff. Yeah, tomorrow I'm gonna go like get together with my friends and we're gonna knit." He was like, "You're living the life of an old lady." I was like, "Okay, I guess that's yeah, I do. I got my old lady collecting my old lady hobbies one at a time. Whatever works, man. Whatever works." Wait, is that is the right size? Yeah, no, I might be an old person stuck in a young person, but that is okay. That's totally fine. Sometimes I talk to, actually, I don't see it. Sometimes I talk to people my age or younger, and I'm like, I do not understand a word that you're saying. And I'm like, oh gosh, I am, I am old. Not really. But no, it's funny. I'm at 25 in case anybody's wondering. Woohoo. I don't know if anybody thought I was older or younger than that, but I walk around a lot, or like, so I have all these, like, I have old, like, you can see all my vintage machines in the background. Gesturing on camera is hard. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Have like all these old vintage sewing machines. Have a bunch of old film cameras that I love to take pictures with. So I'm walking around with like these old film cameras that are straight out of the 60s. And like a lot of family members give us my husband and I, they're like old family china or pieces like that, because they're like, hey, if we give it to them, we know they won't throw it away because they like that kind of stuff. 3.5. Zooming through these questions like I'm zooming through cutting this fabric. Okay. Oh wait, crap. Ooh, I don't own a record. Oh wait, no, we have a record player. We don't have a gramophone. Phone, I can read. We do have a record player. Did I cut these right? No. Brianna. Okay. Brianna can count. Not really. I need 2 more of those. Actually, in a antique shop yesterday, in an antique mall, like, so excited over. They had a whole bunch of old like microscopes and like just old meters for stuff like that, like in like a cathode ray tube like repair diagnostics meter thing, and I was like, oh my gosh, this stuff is so cool. I want to take it all home with me right now and decorate with it. One day. Fill my house with all my old science lab stuff that I desire. See if my tea has cooled down any. in a solid hour. No, it hasn't. Okay. Because a mug really holds in the heat. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What kind of music do I like? Oh goodness. Is that an answer we need on in front of other people? 2, 3, 4, 5. This is a great question. Oh, whale songs. Whales are quite vocal and do make some interesting sounds. No, so I do enjoy listening to like vintage style music, just kind of like as an ambient vibe. Love setting some good vibes. I also will listen to a lot of like if I'm just working, I like to listen to like like Harry Potter or other movie ambient soundtracks. So like mixtures of like kind of ambient ASMR sounds with like the music. But if I'm listening to music with actual words in it, I'll listen to a lot of various things. I love me some Josh Groban. Sings along. I will sing along with a lot of Josh Groban songs. I think he's great. Also musicals are pretty fun. Musicals, I like to sing along to musicals. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Who else will you catch me listening to? Oof. What's up? Like I have some massive playlist with a bunch of random stuff. Like some Imagine Dragons, some 21 Pilots, some One Republic, Walk the Moon. I don't know, it takes a lot for me to get like introduced to new music sometimes. So I'll just listen to like the same stuff I've been listening to for years until somebody else is like, hey, you should listen to this. And I'm like, oh, hot dang, that's kind of good. What's my major? So wait, did I cut that right? Sorry. 6.5. Okay. Major. Okay, so I majored when I was in my undergrad, my bachelor's degree. I double majored in biology and chemistry with a kind of, I guess, more focus on large-scale ecology in the biology degree. So like I did a lot more ecology classes and marine ecology classes and did research on sea stars as part of my biology degree or biology major. And then on the complete like opposite end of the spectrum, I was really into like small scale like quantum and physical chemistry and analytical chemistry. So I did research on like single particle atmospheric aerosols and how those absorb light in our atmosphere. So like it's very into large scale ecology on the biology side and like fine scale single particle like quantum mechanics on the chemistry side. Didn't like biochemistry. I don't enjoy biochemistry, which is the typical thought to be the meeting place of biology and chemistry. Anyhow, and woohoo, Dark Prince done. And then I got a master's degree in analytical chemistry after that, focusing on specifically the measurement of airborne atmospheric nanoplastic particles. So I have a little bit of everything in the biology and chemistry fields, but biology and chemistry, I guess would have been the short answer, but I'm just trying to I'll just keep talking. Oh, what made me want to start YouTube? Well, actually, this kind of goes along with my degree. Sorry. Woo! Okay, let me read my next thing. cut 1 10-inch strip of each. Wait, for all, and then for, ew, gross. Sorry. What made me want to start a YouTube? So yes, this goes along with my degree. Wait, I grabbed this stack already. Yes. So when I graduated, well, rolling back, I was originally I started a PhD program in analytical chemistry, and along the way discovered that I was in a very bad spot, and I really didn't like science anymore, and I really wasn't enjoying my life, and that something needed to change. So I talked with like everybody in my lab, and I talked with my advisor and all this stuff, and I was like, okay, I can. At that point, I had been in it for like a year and a couple months, and basically I decided I was able to, with all the research I had done, I could still graduate within 2 years with a master's degree. So like the typical time frame you'd get a master's degree in, I could still achieve. I wouldn't have like spent like 4 years and then just ended up with a master's degree. And wait, one second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I graduated with a master's degree, and I was still pretty bleh. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I don't know what I want to do with my life. I don't like science. I don't want to get a research job, which was kind of my life plan. And I don't know, one of those people that like has never operated without a life plan. Like I always knew like what my next step was. So it was very like rough of being like, okay, what the heck am I supposed to be doing with my life? So I just decided that one of the things I really did like to do was share my love of science with other people. I've worked a lot, like my mom is a science teacher. I've worked a lot with her for like kids programs, encouraging like getting more girls into science, just encouraging kids in general to get into science and stuff like that. And it's one of the things that I really like enjoyed doing. So I thought that starting a YouTube channel would be an excellent way for me to do that, to be able to share my enthusiasm with science with other people, and in that process like start to gain that enthusiasm back and like just want to learn again. And it's been like a lot better. I way happier than I was like just a year ago, but like a year and a half ago. I'm love science a lot more again. And I'm just happy to share science with all of you guys. It's been really fun. Like sometimes I do have to stop and be like, this is supposed to be fun. You're doing this to be fun. Don't get stressed out by it. Because I do have the tendency to get stressed out very easily. But so yeah, that's why I came here to YouTube, was just to be excited about science and to have people to share that with. All right. What is a country that you would like to visit? Okay, step 1, all of them. I love to travel and just would love to go as many places as I can. But I think currently probably like new country I haven't been to would probably be Italy. I did say either Italy or Germany would be where I would like to visit next, I think. Because I think they're so pretty, and I don't know. I want to go as many places as possible. I think those are currently kind of the top 2 on my list. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I hope everybody enjoyed my dance moves in that gold plating video. It's always fun when I have like an absolutely ridiculous idea to do something in my video, and then I get to do it, and I'm sitting there editing it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know if anybody else is going to like this, but I had fun doing it, and that's what matters at this point. Okay. Get my actual water. because that's not too hot to drink out of at this point. Sorry. This is just like the longest list of things to cut out. What have I gotten myself into? Ooh, what was my favorite class in college? Ooh. Let's think. Okay. I would have to probably say, in terms of combination of content and pure fun, would have to be, well, both at the same, like, I took two different classes with the same professor because I loved his class so much. And the one was aquatic ecology, and then the second one was wetland ecosystems. And they were both really good classes because they were both, like, very interesting to begin with. Like, they're a very interesting subject. But the professor for the class just absolutely made it. He was like, so number one, this class was at 8 a.m. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Both of them were. I think he just enjoyed teaching at that time. And sorry, just thinking about stuff that happened in the class and trying to count at the same time. But so we had to do these course evaluations at the end of the semester, and he would like create these ridiculous memes to like convince us to complete the course evaluations that would just show up on each lecture. And then this was the wetlands ecosystems class I took during COVID. So it was online. The class itself wasn't online, but the labs were in person. And so we would like turn on our, like, sometimes we would like turn on our cameras and like to show up to class. And he was like, one day he was like, the camera was pointed at a bowl of like baby turtles that he had just hatched in his lab. He just hatched some baby turtles in the lab that he like found turtle eggs and just hatched them and like pointed the camera at them. And we just watched baby turtles for like half of the class. And then other times he would like be in the middle of talking and then just like deadpan into like holding up his Dr. Pepper and just be like, sponsored by Dr. Pepper. Like, this lecture brought to you by Dr. Pepper. And then in lab, he let us release the baby turtles back into the lake that we did our labs at, and which was super fun. He let us drive a remote control boat around the lake. I promise we learned in this class. He let us drive a remote control boat around the lake. And then for one of the labs, we just like straight up went canoeing. I don't know why. I don't know what. I guess we went canoeing because it was like on a wetland. So we canoed and went around and talked about the different like wetland species we found. But for the most part, we were just like, canoeing for like 3 hours and we got an A for it. It was great. And then one lab we showed up and it was pouring rain, and my college campus really like easily flooded. We were in a wetland itself, so there was like wetlands all around campus. So it was like always wet, especially if it rained. We like show up, it's pouring rain, and he's like, "Today we're supposed to be sampling soil, but all of our soil sample sites are 10 inches below water. But we're gonna go out there anyway, walk around campus for a bit, and then go home." So we like follow him around campus in rain gear, but still soaking wet. Everybody else who's walking around campus at the same time is like very confused because they're like running as fast as possible. They're like just trying to get indoors because they're just going from class to class or building to building, and we're like clearly out there on a trek. And oh my gosh, when I got back from that like 2 hours later, I was so wet. And then, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. There's a lot of memories from this class. This class was hilarious. And then there was, what was the other thing that happened? Oh, he like sang. We had a lecture about like mangrove forests, like the tropical kind of wetlands down in like Florida and Cuba and stuff like that. And so we had this whole lecture on mangroves. forests. And then he was like, okay. Oh, wait, no, let me back this up. On the syllabus for class that day, the syllabus said the title of the lecture was Mangroves, the Musical. And all of us were like, what? So we get to class. He gives his usual lecture on mangrove forests, but he stops with like 20 minutes left in class. And he's like, all right, now that we've spoken through this lecture, I'm going to sing it to you. He had written a song version of his entire lecture, and he proceeded to just sing at us for the next like 20 minutes about the lecture he had just given. He also did an entire lab introduction video, like with the Star Wars rolling credits, and like had made up this whole entire backstory about like turtles being like the dark side fighting against like somebody. It was fun. So I would say I promise I learned stuff in that class. So for pure entertainment value and educational value, that one definitely takes the cake. And I love that. I love both of those classes. There's a reason that's why I took aquatic ecology, and I loved it so much and had so much fun. I was like, I have to take his other class. And that's saying a lot to get like kids, like college students out of bed into a lecture class by 8 a.m. and actually enjoy it. That's takes a lot of credit. And then there's another professor at my college that I also really liked. I worked in his lab. I also really liked his classes. I took like at least 2, maybe 3 classes with him. And in one of them was a, hold up, I got a 3 2.25 inch strips. Okay. One of them was a marine ecology discussion class. And each class we would get together and we'd read a couple of scientific papers and we would discuss them. And it was pretty fun, and you have a bunch of like marine ecology nerds together discussing stuff like keystone species and ecosystem engineers and all sorts of stuff. And we all had to lead a discussion, and we could even lead count. And we didn't actually have enough students all for the as many classes as we had, so some of us got to lead 2, and he was like, if you lead a second one, it's extra credit. So it was my turn to lead like the second discussion. And I was like, listen, this one doesn't actually, this is extra credit. It doesn't count towards my actual grade. So let's go absolutely insane here. And I had made everybody in the class a felt sea slug, a felt nudibranch, which is where that came from. That I have a video about that on my channel, these little cute how to make a felt sea slug. So I made everybody in my class a felt sea slug, and I brought them with me, and I brought all this construction paper and scissors and tape and glue, and you could see my professor going like, what is she about to do? And because my classroom discussion was about adaptations. So I was like, okay, everybody, here's your nudibranch, here's your sea slug, and we're going to be doing Project Nudibranch. So like Project Runway, if you're familiar with the show. But instead of building like fashion for your sea slugs, we're going to be building adaptations or ways that they can survive a change in their environment. So I assigned each of them like a change in environment. Like, oh, a new predator has moved into this land. A new, like, the ocean temperature has gone up. Like, stuff like that. And then I was like, all right, here's all your materials and build an adaptation. So that's what we did for class that day, which was great. My professor was like, okay, Brianna. Oh my gosh. That class, aside from the absolute arts and crafts shenanigans that I decided to pull, was just really cool. It was really interesting to discuss all those different ecology topics and like just learn more. I enjoy discussion classes and getting to learn more from like other people and what they think from reading. Interesting how you can have so many differing opinions from reading the same paper. It's just a cool thing to do, I think. This is so much. This one's 7 3/4 inches. So this was a really long answer to the question of what was my favorite college class? I hope it all made sense. 7 3/4 inch. I promise I learned in college. It's been a lot of talking. I hope everybody is not like tired of the sound of my voice by the end of this, because that would be bad for me as a content creator. Let's 2, 3. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so I know we have or had, I can't actually tell who is on other than whenever you comment something, a art student in here. What is, if anybody wants to share, like what's your guys' background or kind of stuff you're interested in other than whatever I have to say about science? One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ooh, we got design. Ooh, physics. All right, 2 things I'm not great at. Well, I guess I'm great at sewing design, not like, I don't even know. Who would put me in charge of designing any products for anybody that's not me? And a physics student, I admire that greatly. I am some hot trash at physics. I appreciate people who can do it. I had to take physics as part of my chemistry degree, and it was so not my deal. I think I also just didn't have, oh my gosh, that was the wrong, I have 5 of these, I don't need any more, sorry. I don't think I had a great teacher for physics, which definitely impacted how I felt about physics 1 and physics 2. So if you can do physics well, I greatly admire you. Honestly, I admire anybody who is good at what they do. I love people being good at what they can do. But I'm much better suited at biology and chemistry than physics. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and a half. also love seeing so many different like backgrounds here. That's so much fun. I really love learning, and I love other people who love learning. And I think that when you get to a certain point in your life, it is like, I don't know if like it's hard to like learn new things because you're an adult and so many people who are already in that subject like know a lot about it, and they're not always very good at like explaining it to people who are unfamiliar with it. But you're like, and you know, like you grow up in school and you go to science class, and then eventually if you don't like science anymore, you're going to stop taking science classes, and you don't know what's going on in science classes anymore because you haven't been to science class forever. But you still, oh my gosh, none of this is making sense. But you still have the opportunity to learn things throughout your life if you can, I feel like, find a good person who can explain it to you. And that's what I really try to do here, is make science very fun and accessible. So like, even if you haven't taken a science class since high school or middle school, and like science isn't your main passion, but you still like want to learn, you can come here and learn something and be excited about it. Just learning itself is so exciting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and a half. 1, 2, 3. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and a half. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yay! I think I'm done with this one. So much chopping. Oh, here's like a fun question, I guess. What did you like want to be as a kid, but like not, you know, like, I mean, great if you're doing it now, that's amazing. But like, what did you used to want to do as a kid? If that makes sense. Like for me, like when I was really little, I wanted to be a killer whale trainer at SeaWorld. And my dad crushed that dream and was like, SeaWorld won't be open when you're an adult. Which, I mean, clearly SeaWorld is still open. But and then I wanted to be a geologist. I was really into rocks there for a hot second. And then I was really into, like, I also wanted to be a like cosmetologist at a certain point, because we had a cosmetologist come to our school for career day, and I thought she was so cool. And then I kind of settled back into like marine biologist, science, and then ended up also like into chemistry. So does anybody have like things they used to want to like do as a kid that they're like not necessarily doing now? Or again, even if they are still doing now, that's great. Ooh, doctor. Nice, I like it. That's a lot of school. Trying to think. I don't know if I used to want to be like a marine rescue, like stranding rescue response person. So like a marine animal doctor. Because I'm like, ooh, they get to hang out with all the cool giant animals that I love. Ooh. Architecture. as an industry turned out to be far less rewarding than I expected. All right, yeah, let's go. I'm glad you figured that out before you got into it. Although, again, it's never too late to change what you want to do in life. Architecture, I know, is very difficult. And like all other jobs, I respect the people who became architects, there we go, and design and build buildings that we get to use, because building design is very important. A pilot. Ooh, I like it. Yes. So yeah, you need physics to do pilots, and now you're into particle physics. They got you. They just were like, oh, yeah, you need physics to do this. And then they just trapped you. That's actually kind of how I ended up in the chemistry field, is I had to do chemistry classes for my biology major, and I really enjoyed them. So then I was like, hey, why the heck not do a chemistry major too? I got plenty of time in college, and I had a lot of transfer credits from high school. I was like, I got this all good. And then I ended up really loving chemistry, and then ended up getting a master's degree in chemistry. Just, it sucked me in. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh gosh, counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I don't know if you guys hear. I'll show you so you actually feel like I'm making progress. Because I know it probably looks like I'm doing absolutely nothing. Here's the beginnings of stacks of different fabric strips that I have made. So I am making progress. Slowly but surely. Emphasis on slowly, it seems. 1, 3, 6, 10. Alright, and if there's anybody, I feel like I've been into this for like an hour and a half now, which is crazy. So if anybody is here now that wasn't here in the beginning, welcome. Hello. I'm in the middle of making this very cute sea star quilt. Let's also just all have a reminder of what this looks like so we can power through this. It's nice, like beach, I can't get the angle right, beach, and some sea star appliques on it. And I am in the middle of trying to cut out all of these fabric pieces. So while I'm doing this, you are welcome to ask me questions about literally whatever. We have talked about crafting, we've talked about crocheting versus knitting, we've talked about classes I took in college, we've talked about favorite animals, keystone species. We talked about a lot of stuff, which is fun. Hope you guys are having a great time. One, 5, and 3.5. 1, 2, 3.5. Is anybody else currently like working on a craft project or just chilling? Anything? No, I don't need another one of those. 5.5. Ooh, working on an art project. That's fun. if I can ask, I'm curious about your art project. I love to know what other art people are doing. Portraits? That's okay. That's cool. Man, I wish I could draw better or paint. Went to a art museum over the weekend, and I'm just love people, like, just so much talent, especially like portraits that I'm like, I love specifically, I guess, like 1600 1800s art, or it's like I took an art history class in college, and that's what it kind of focused on. And so some of that's like just some of the portraits they would do is very well, anybody who does portraits, very, very impressive. The ability to capture life back then, especially like before photography existed. I don't know if I'm making any sense. Just it's very cool how that like art is what we have. A lot of what we have left over from like people who came before us, or a lot of how daily life was recorded, or not necessarily, but just like events and stuff were recorded. You needed to use art or painting to do that, or drawing. It's because like you couldn't take pictures of it, which we can do nowadays. Two, 5 by 6. This is hard work. Ooh, why is this? This is terrible. I'm gonna iron this real quick. It's too wrinkly. All right, that's a little bit better. Probably also just good to stand up for my legs give out. Okay. Whew. Oh my gosh. So I'm trying to think. Let's see. I guess I could talk a little bit more about like why I love starfish in the first place. So I've mentioned this a couple of times, but so I got to study starfish when I was in undergrad. I worked specifically with the ochre sea star, which I mentioned earlier, which is considered to be the first keystone species. But there are these big purple and orange sea stars that live in the Pacific Northwest. So down like northern, like in Washington, kind of Oregon, a little bit of Northern California, and the tide pools there. And they are, oh, I love them so much. But so what I was studying is specifically about their babies, or their little larvae that they turn into big starfish, and about how they can clone themselves. So again, they can, like, I don't know who was here when I talked about this earlier, but you're going to hear it again if you were. But sea star larvae can clone themselves, so they can split themselves in half and regrow the other half. And from one sea star larva, you get 2 sea star larvae. And scientists are like not entirely sure why they do this. And as you could probably imagine, this is a very niche research field, so like there's not like a billion people studying why they do this or like in response to what they do it. But so what I was trying to figure out is like what caused them to want to clone themselves. Like what did they just do it, like did they always do it at the same rate, like, you know, one out of every 25 would clone itself, or would certain things in the environment increase whether or not they were going to clone? That was what I was trying to figure out. And so I did stuff with specifically temperature and salinity. So like whether or not like warmer ocean waters would cause them to clone more, or like a lower salinity or higher salinity ocean water would cause them to clone more. So basically what this meant is I was a sea star mom and got to raise all these little baby sea stars, which are microscopic, so you can't really look, you can't see them without a microscope. And I would feed them and change out their water and, you know, take care of them. But I also got to count them every single day, or not every single day, every other day, and see if they would clone in response to our environmental treatments. And one of the ways, or the way that we counted them, was by picking each one individually up and moving it to a new container and counting it. And to do this, I got to use a mouth pipette. I know. If anybody's a science, like a lab person here, they will be like, I can't believe they let you use a mouth pipette. And if anybody's not, whoever is not a lab person here, will be like, what is a mouth pipette? A mouth pipette is kind of like, so pipettes like a little plastic things with a bowl that you'd squeeze and like suck up water into in like lab class. A mouth pipette is similar to that. It's a tube that's got a mouthpiece connected to it that you would use to suck up liquid and dispel it. And in this case, it was used to suck up little little sea star larvae and move them from place to place underneath a dissecting microscope. Now, mouth pipetting is no longer used in science because, you know, having your mouth involved in science is typically a bad thing. We're not supposed to drink our chemicals. And so I got made fun of by all of my friends and all the other labs for using a mouth pipette. But the other deal was we didn't actually ever use any chemicals in my research lab. We didn't even really use soap because all of that would kill our baby sea stars, and people in my lab also studied like sea urchins and sand dollars. It would kill them. So we weren't allowed to use even soap. We couldn't use. So basically the biggest danger in me mouth pipetting was drinking one of my larvae or drinking seawater. So it wasn't that big of a deal. I survived. I don't think I drank a single larvae, even though I did drink a lot of seawater. But that was pretty fun. The kind of sad part was that my animal of study, so the ochre sea star, suffers from what is called sea star wasting disease, and this is a virus that do little outbreaks out on the Pacific Northwest. Scientists are also not entirely sure why this is the case either, but it's this disease, and basically it goes through the sea star populations and it destroys them. I mean, they fall apart, they start losing arms, but unlike usually, they don't regrow them back until the sea stars are dead. They die from the disease. And I think most of my sea stars, all that we kept in the tanks, like the adult sea stars, ended up with this wasting disease. And we're kind of continually in various states of falling apart, which was great. On the bright side, I didn't need them. I just needed their babies. So once they had babies, I didn't well, I cared that they died because I loved them, but it didn't affect my research if they died. Let me put it that way. And so they had their little sea star wasting disease, which was very sad. But I'd always be like, we'd have to take care of all of our animals in the aquarium tanks. And like I said, the sea star wasting disease would cause them to like fall apart and die. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And so I was always picking out like pieces of dead sea stars like out of the tanks, like all their arms and stuff like that. I'm always picking up dead sea stars out of my tanks. And I asked my advisor, like, hey, what do you want me to do with all these dead sea stars? And his answer was, put them in the freezer. Now this freezer, just full of dead animals. Anytime one of our aquarium animals died, we put it in a bag and we put it in the freezer. I don't know why, because we never went back into that freezer and looked through it. It never got cleaned out. It just continually got full of more and more dead animals. But listen, the man said, put them in the freezer. So that is what I did, was following my orders. And the way that our lab was set up, like the lab that had all the aquariums in it, was one hallway, and then around the corner was like our main research lab. But that corner was actually like kind of a balcony situation, so like you could see the first floor below it, and then there was like a balcony, like a balcony surrounding that first floor of above. So the door to the aquarium room was right on that balcony, so you could lean over the railing and see what was going on down below. And let me tell you, every single time I walked out of that room with a bag full of dead sea star arms, and there was a tour group for the college walking by underneath on the first floor, I so badly wanted to just dive bomb them with sea star arms and then like run before they could catch me, but I resisted the urge every time. But it was very strong to just like see all the like high schoolers and be like, I just want to drop a bag of sea star arms on them. But I didn't. I was good. I tried my best. So there's, me not trying to dump sea star arms on kids, which is probably for the better. But when I was in college, I also did within the same lab, we traveled all the way to Friday Harbor, Washington, which is up in the San Juan Islands. And we spent the whole summer there collecting animals from tide pools, spawning them, studying their babies, and all this sorts of stuff. And that was a lot of fun. It was me and 2 other people from my lab, just hanging out around the summer, walking around the lab. And that lab was like so kind of sketch in a way. And you think of labs typically and you're like, oh yes, they're all very clean and everything's in great working condition. But labs in real life are just honestly a little jank. There was like, and especially like those labs, because they were meant to study marine biology. So you would like, they were set, like they had a tap from the ocean straight into the lab, so you could turn on a tap and get seawater. You would like there was like several drains in the floor, and the floor was almost always wet because you were always spilling seawater everywhere. Like I said, there weren't any chemicals. We barely even ever used soap because it would kill all of our precious animals that we were trying so hard to keep alive. And we had these like like the ocean moves, there's ocean currents all the time, so our larvae needed to move as well. If they didn't, they weren't like great swimmers, so they would just like, if you just left them alone, they would just sink to the bottom of like our beakers, which was actually, we didn't even use beakers. We actually cultivated our larvae in shot glasses. So So load up all the larvae into shot glasses. It was a wild place. And we would have to build these things called stirring racks, which were like pieces of plastic and PVC and string that were barely being held together. And we would set those up, and they'd very ricketily, that's not a word, but I'm going to use it, stir our little larvae around at a rate so they'd stay, upright, alive, afloat. And then that's going on. We had this other machine that was like you would tie jars to with rubber tubing and put it on, and it would just like rotate the jar, but it was so sketchy looking. We had this metal stool that was so covered in rust from all the salt water. We just called it like tetanus stool. It was interesting. It was good fun, but it was also interesting. I'm actually not even sure. I'm like, were there any lights in that lab? There must have been, because I would go in there at like 4 a.m. to do stuff. Yeah. But one of the things we did was we needed crab larvae for one of our experiments. And the way you get crab larvae is you go down to the dock at night and you put a light in the water, and just the same way that bugs are attracted to light above water, all the little sea bugs, like crab larvae, are attracted to the light in the water at night. And so we would do that like almost every night, try to find crab larvae. And so the crab larvae would come, and then the fish would be attracted to the crab larvae, and then bigger fish would be attracted to the smaller fish. And then eventually we actually managed to attract a seal, or 2 seals, that were there to get the fish. So we kind of accidentally ended up training 2 seals as well, because they knew that if there was a light in the water, there was probably fish nearby, and they would come and visit us for some fish. We named one of them Blake Wardo. I don't actually know why he got named Blake Wardo, because he got named that before I showed up for the summer. And then the other one was named Lucille. If you're familiar with the show Arrested Development, that is an Arrested Development reference. So those were our lovely nights accidentally training seals. Good times. Good times to be alive. We'd also go on like hikes around the island. We had time. There was actually a time there was like an owl in the woods that was attacking people. So we got like an island-wide email that was like, please wear a protective hat in the woods because there are owls. There's an owl out there attacking people. There's an interesting summer. Zooming along, cutting some fabric. Let's see, what else happened? We went to a neighboring island that had a sand dollar beach, and we would just like literally we had a contest to see like how many sand dollars you could pick out of the sand in like a minute. And like each of us had like 50 to 60 sand dollars after the minute. That's how many there were, just like buried in the sand. And in case anybody was wondering, sand dollars, like the ones you see on the beach or buy from beach stores, the white things, they're actually once upon a time were alive. And when they're alive, they're not white, they're black, and they're covered with little fuzz. That was fun. We collected a couple like ones that had died and set them out in the sun to bleach as well, so we could take those home with us. That was a good time. But yeah, it was crazy. Just reach your hands in the sand and come up with like an entire handful of sand dollars. It was absolutely insane. And then we'd go at low tide, we would go into the tide pools, because that's how we got like all of our sea stars and stuff like that. And just I swear I love tide pools. I love tide pools. just the amount of animals that exist within a tide pool is so cool. Like, you can just reach in there and you can see there's sea stars, mussels, limpets, crabs, sea slugs, like urchins. All of those things within one area is like, it's just so cool. Oh my gosh. It is terrifying though when you're like slipping around and sliding and then you like see something move and you're like, oh my gosh, that's a crab. But there are some amazing places to visit. It's the amount of stuff that grows in them is so cool. I'm trying to think of what else. What else that summer occurred? A lot of stuff occurred. Oh, we had there were also like classes going on in Friday Harbor. Like it's an outpost of the University of Washington, I think. And they had the one class that was going on was called Marine Invertebrates. And they hosted something called the Marine Invertebrate Ball, which was a dance party where everybody came dressed as a marine invertebrate. And there were different prizes for like best costume and stuff like that. Let me tell you, that is potentially the weirdest social event that I've ever attended. Every like dancing and everybody's like dressed up as a jellyfish, a sea slug, a sea star, like octopus, like weird, a very weird social event. A lot of fun, but odd. And my friends and I went as something called a colonial sea squirts. And sea squirts are these little like, how do I describe what a sea squirt is? They're these little animals that don't really look like animals, and they like grow on rocks. They almost kind of look like algae or seaweed. They grow on rocks. They attach themselves to the rocks, but when you squish them, they'll squirt out water. And when they all live together, like when a bunch of them sometimes live together, and that's the colonial sea squirts because it's like a colony of sea squirts. But instead of like dressing up as an actual, anatomically correct colonial sea squirt, I guess, what we did is we ordered colonial wigs, so those like powdered like wigs, colonial wigs, taped C's to our shirts, and then carried around squirt guns. So we were colonial sea squirts. We won honorable mention in the wild card pun costume contest category. It was a fantastic costume because we were just like running around the event, like squirting people with our squirt guns. It was great. Top 10 nights out. I actually don't know if I've ever had more than like 10 nights out in my life. But that was definitely got to be one of the top 10. Subcut into 5, 2 3/4. Okay. Hopefully this is entertaining. I mean, I still have people watching, so it's got to be a certain level of entertaining, right? We think so. 2 3/4. Gotta iron this again. Ooh. That's some hard work right here. One, two, and three. Oops. Again, if anybody has any questions for me, just let me know. Clearly, I'm happy to talk about them. And probably give a ridiculously long answer to whatever question you ask. What is my long-term plan? Great question. I'm actually kind of in the middle of trying to figure that out right now. I would plan on continuing to do this, to do the YouTubes for as long as I can. I'm kind of currently working on trying to count fabric source. I'm currently working on like people I guess like other companies that I might want to work with in terms of like there's a couple like science fashion companies that I'm trying to get into contact with to see if they want any help making content, or just like I think it'd be really cool to design something with them. I want to hopefully eventually like be able to tour like museums and zoos and aquariums and get like some behind the scenes content, or work with like factories where they make sciencey things and like get kind of that behind the scenes look at how some of that stuff works to share with you guys. I'd also love to try to figure out and work on how to get involved with more like outreach events. So last year I went to one of that was the wrong square. Sorry. I got involved in a local school's STEM day. They had a whole like STEM day thing, and I went and spoke and did an activity with all the kids all day, and that was like a lot of fun. So I'd love to figure out how to do more stuff in the future. I just want to continue finding ways to like, well, for one, fund myself. That would be great, but to like continue to find ways to inspire and share science with other people and just get them as excited about it as I am. So I think definitely want to expand my outreach and do like kids programs or stuff like that. Talk to schools, talk to people, talk at conferences. That would be really cool to get to do. I'm actually going to help my mom out here in the next month or so with a kids program she's doing. I'll help co-teach that. Oh, that'll be exciting. But yeah, I just want to be, I just kind of want to be like a science fashion icon. Let's do it. I know, we'll see what happens. This has been a lot of fun, and I hope to be able to continue doing it. Do you have another job right now outside of YouTube? I don't, because I said, or I mentioned earlier that like this was part of kind of my recovery for being happy and figuring out what I want to do with my life. And as part of that, I'm like really trying to focus on that. That may change in the next year or two, just depending on things. But right now, this is like my full focus, which is why it's like really, I'm just really trying to like, I'm really lucky that I get to do this. And I'm just trying to really focus on being like, hey, this is supposed to be fun and enjoyable. We don't need to be stressed out while doing it. And just have fun with it and do kind of the things I love to do and share that with other people. Ticking along here, I just cut up this beautiful fabric. I don't know, I feel like I probably have so many people since I showed off the fabric, but this is one of my favorite ones from this kit. It is this sea urchin print. I love sea urchin skeletons. I think they're so beautiful. I just finished cutting up all the squares for that. Also show off, this is my other favorite print. It's got sea stars on it, and it's such a beautiful blue color. So yeah, I have, let's see, I've done jellyfish so far, some fishies so far, more fishies, more jellyfish, the sea stars, and now this sea urchin print. We are chugging along. Now we're doing some green fishies. So many fishies in the sea. But in terms of also having, like, not having another job outside of YouTube, I finally have, it's a very, like, running on a very small budget, but I finally have reached the point where I have made, like, enough money either through selling some items on my Etsy shop, or by generous donations made to my Buy Me a Coffee page, which I really, really appreciate everybody who's ever donated to it. I have been able to, since the beginning of this, my Insta Snow video, everything I've needed for my channel, I have been able to get out of money I have made myself from this channel, which is incredibly exciting to me. And I'm gonna, again, operating on a very small budget, but I am just gonna try to keep that up because I think that's such a big milestone to hit in, like, the YouTuber world, that I'm so excited that I have been blessed enough to be able to operate like that. So we're going to keep that up for as long as possible. And it's thanks to you guys for watching me that, like, any of this is possible. So thank you for helping support my dreams and my journey to happiness. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And thank you to everybody who's shown up today. I mean, because I just said thank you because you're the ones obviously listening to this. But thank you for showing up. I really appreciate it. Didn't really know if anybody was going to show up. But I logged on and there are already people waiting for it. So that's amazing. Really appreciate that. Wasn't expecting that. It's actually really interesting when I started this. And I, like, told my friends about it and stuff like that. And some of them, like, I feel like some of them followed me. Some of them didn't really ever say anything about it. And then there are some people that I, like, feel like I haven't talked to in years. Like, you know, we were friends once upon a time, and then just we haven't talked to each other in years and stuff like that. But then they saw it and they followed it and they watch and, like, and then clearly, like, I have people who are not, like, all of you, like, people who I don't know who are watching this, people from foreign countries who are watching this. And it really is interesting to me, like, the people I thought would support me didn't necessarily support me, and people who I never, like, haven't thought about in years, like, came out and were like, yeah, this is awesome. And I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you. I just love having people. I think sometimes people could be terrible and they're not very supportive. So I love it when people are supportive to one another. It's very nice to see. Oh, thank you for the compliment. I try very hard on all my videos. I'm glad they're entertaining. I'm like, what's the best way to make this random topic that I've chosen entertaining for people who are not me? And sometimes that involves electrons dancing around. You know? It just does. A lot of horrible people since I started doing this. I think I've been pretty good. I think I'm still pretty small, and so that, well, like, if people can't see me, they can't be mean to me, I guess. I've had a few, like, rude comments. I've had a couple people that I've had to block. But a lot of, like, the first time it happened, and actually a couple times it's happened, I was actually really excited that I've had people be mean to me online, because I'm like, like, do you know how much effort it takes to, like, comment on somebody's YouTube video? Like, I watch YouTube or see people's posts, and I like it, I enjoy it, but I never comment on it. Like, it takes a lot of work to comment and to interact with somebody's video or even somebody's Instagram post. And so if I can get you to be annoyed enough that you felt like you had to post something on my video, I feel like I've won. Like, I feel like I've made it. Like, I pissed you off so much that you just had to say something mean to me because you didn't know what else to do. Because also there are plenty of people who probably watch something I make and are like, I don't really like that, so I'm just gonna click away from it. But no, some people are just so mad they feel the need to, like, be frustrated at it. So I either so sometimes it makes me laugh. But don't get me wrong, it also bothers me because I'm like, and I want to, like, respond with something so scathing to them and just, like, beat them down. But I shouldn't. I should take the higher road because, you know, a lot of these people just want to argue. So sometimes I either, like, if the comment is, like, unnecessary, like, doesn't even, like, I don't, like, if somebody tells me I'm wrong and I Google it and I find out I genuinely made a mistake, I'll totally admit it. But if somebody, like, is like, you're wrong and you're stupid and you did this, I'll be like, this isn't true, this isn't constructive, you've added nothing. Like, oftentimes I'll just delete it off a video because it's stupid. Like, yeah, I don't want to deal with you. I'm not gonna feed into your game. I just, like, listen, I'm just here making science content and you got mad about it. I also had somebody post, like, a rude comment on my, what video was it? My crystal snowflake video. Then told me my snowflakes looked really ugly. And I was like, kind of mad because I was like, listen, like, I think I even said it in the video, like, making snowflakes out of pipe cleaners is clearly not my calling. But I was like, oh my gosh, like, I can't believe somebody would say that to me. And I didn't know what to do with the comment. I was like, probably just gonna delete it because I didn't want to entertain the person who said it. But then I noticed that, like, a couple of other people had commented on that comment and was like, bruh, why did you even comment that? That's so rude. That isn't necessary. Like, all this stuff. And so it kind of was like a cool thing of, you guys were, like, out here supporting me. And I was like, oh, thank you. Like, now I don't have to deal with this stupid person because you guys dealt with them for me. And that was really nice to see. It made my little heart warm. But yeah, I haven't gotten a lot of hate, which makes me happy. Not really trying to be, I'm not trying to be out here, like, stirring the pot of drama. But when I do get hate, I'm like, oh, cool. Thanks for interacting with my video. I guess, like, whatever. Was it annoying to pick up all those cranberries you tried to throw into the class? Yes. So for those of you who don't know what that's talking about, in my cranberry video, which came out, that's not even the right size. What am I trying to do? Sorry. my cranberry video that came out sometime around Thanksgiving, so like late November, I played cranberry pong because cranberries have a pocket of air in them, which means they will bounce so if you throw them on something, they'll bounce off. So I was like, haha, this is hilarious. Bounce it off the table, try to hit into a glass. It's really hard to do. And my husband was like, what the crap are you doing? And I was like, I'm playing cranberry pong. He joined, of course. He actually got his family to play it at Thanksgiving. I did not win, even though I'm the inventor of the game. Here we are. And so we ended up going through like the entire bag of cranberries. So then neither one of us had made a shot. Mate went through an entire bag of cranberries. So then we had to pick them all up to try to do it. Finally made one in and called it quits after that. But yeah, and then I had to go around and pick up all of them. And some of them at that point, you know, after being thrown around, had kind of started to fall apart. Were squishy. And it was really hard to like pick them up while also like not getting cranberry stains on my floor. But it was a lot of fun, and I don't regret it. But yes, it was annoying to pick up an entire bag's worth of cranberries off the floor. And we did it, yeah, like I said, we did it again at Thanksgiving with my in-laws. And I didn't win because I'm really bad at it because it's really hard. Thank you. I love science nerds too. I'm excited about my future topics as well. My guys are so nice. So yeah, I guess I can take like 1 2-inch strip. Since we're chilling here, just take a second and talk about kind of some future topics I do have planned. Because I am an intense planning person and like to plan months at a time. Because that's who I am as a person. Let's see. So I'm thinking of doing. Well, I've got a science dress coming out hopefully next week. Hopefully, if I get it done in time. And I have a couple more. I have like hopefully a science crochet video in the works. I'm also thinking about, as of right now, doing some making kind of February and March a lot about some scientist story times. I haven't done one of those in a while. I love learning and talking about the lives of scientists. If you see my bookshelf, other than, you know, like half of it being Harry Potter books because I have a problem, the other half of it is almost all scientist biographies. Love reading about scientists and stuff like that. So I'm hopefully going to be able to do more of those. I'm thinking about doing some like Black scientists for Black History Month, as I recently learned about a couple of really, well, I mean, they're all cool, but I learned some new cool ones I didn't know before. And then I'm thinking about doing, and then I'm going to redo my, I am speaking faster than the thoughts are forming. I'm going to do Celebrate Women's History Month the same way I did last year, where I'm going to dress inspired by different women scientists every single day of March. I'm probably not going to do them as reels this year because that was honestly exhausting, but there's going to be some of the outfits I did last year, but mostly all new women scientists and fun outfits inspired by them. Really excited about. Along with that, I'm planning on, got a lot of very ambitious projects planned. So as part of the Women's Scientist Month, or Women's History Month, I'm also planning on making a women scientist themed quilt that'll make it into videos. So I got I have so much fabric in this room right now. It's kind of insane after my end of 2024 pledge to stop buying fabric. Clearly didn't work, so I'm planning on making a women's scientist quilt. That should be exciting. I'm trying to go visit my parents, and I'm gonna build some stuff while I go visit them. That should make it onto this channel that I'm pretty excited about. And kind of the big plan I have for near the end of this year, because it's gonna take me a lot of months to do, is actually a fashion collection inspired by dead whales and the ecosystems that dead whales, like whales dying and sinking in the bottom of the ocean, form around them. I'm planning on doing a lot of outfits inspired by that. I could be watching too much Project Runway. It's usually what I'm watching when I'm sewing. So that's kind of what I currently have planned out, is going to be a lot of scientist story times and a lot of crafting science, because that is some of my favorite stuff to do. And I'll probably just fill in every once in a while talking about some questions you guys have, or like cool science experiment or cool science toy that I find. Okay. Whew. So much talking. All right. 2.5 hours, almost 2.5 hours on this live stream. Do we think my tea is finally cold enough to drink? Still no! I should have never put it into this cup. It's incredibly insulating. Okay. And for all those who missed it, I drank it like at the immediate start of this live stream and burned the ever-living crap out of my tongue. And I've been dealing with it ever since. Okay. For anybody who's like, is she still cutting out fabric pieces? The answer is yes. These check marks indicate what I have completed so far. The rest of this is what I have yet to complete. Yeah. Okay, somebody asked me who my favorite scientist is. Oh, 1 second, I gotta stretch. Okay, favorite scientist has to be Rosalind Franklin. I'm currently staring at 2 posters of Rosalind Franklin in my room right now. I think she was the first. Oh, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Hold up. It lied to me. Sorry. I'm trying to read what this was supposed to have me say. Neutral seashells. Oh. Beach prints. Wait. Okay, not this stack. Ooh, I need neutral seashells. Okay. In case anybody was wondering what the pattern neutral seashells looks like, it looks like this. Very faint seashells in the pattern. Yeah, so I love Rosalind Franklin. She's the first woman scientist that I learned about outside of Marie Curie. And I learned about her. I remember distinctly, I learned about her in high school biology. My biology teacher had us watch like a PBS documentary on her. And I remember like coming home from school that day and being so mad at like the way Rosalind Franklin was treated by James Watson and Francis Crick, and just like the outrage, just the outrage. At the time even I didn't know that much about Marie Curie's life either. And I don't know if I had really questioned like how much I didn't know any women in science, you kind of go through that period where you're like, wait a second. Like, where are all the women? Not getting the credit they deserve. Or the minorities too, also not getting the credit they deserve. Anyhow, and so I started to learn more about her, and in my junior year of high school for AP US History, the end of the year kind of capstone project, I guess, was a living history museum. And everybody had to choose a historical figure. We had to dress up as them, learn all about their lives, and basically like stand in these like living history exhibits and pretend to be them for like 2 hours. And I chose Rosalind Franklin. And so I learned a lot about her, read several biographies, and like, I mean, I had to become her. Adopted the worst British accent you've ever heard, and all this stuff. And I just learned so much about her, and she's have very similar personalities. From what I can understand from reading, we have very similar personalities. I feel like we would have gotten along really well together as friends. And I just enjoyed learning about her life and felt like I really connected with her. So that's why she is my favorite, because I just have I feel like I have a lot of very good connections with her. And her story is one that's very easy to get outraged over. I don't really know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I guess I'd probably be hard pressed to know who's if I have actually I guess that's not true. I do have oh my gosh, what's the word? I do have a lot of scientists I don't like because they've treated people like crap, but I'd be hard pressed to find a woman scientist that I probably don't like. I don't know. I admire all of the ones that I read about in many ways, just because they research is just so cool, and I love hearing about it. Okay. Ooh, can you do the British accent? Oh gosh, I regret bringing this up. Maybe. Usually I could only get it down after marathoning Harry Potter or Doctor Who. Let's see. Hello everyone, I'm here today. I'm here today to make a sea star quilt with all of you. I don't even think that's what it was. I don't know if it ever got anywhere. Oh, so glad to make somebody else laugh. Listen, I got a lot of talents. Language or accents is clearly not one of them. Luckily, there was no foreign people trying to judge us that we were not graded on our accent. I actually had to practice it. Mainly I was practicing trying not to crack up. Because that was my biggest problem. There you go. You're welcome, everyone. Oh my gosh, I can feel my face getting red. Okay. There you go. Oh, dang. Yeah, leave a mean comment about that accent. See if I can. Oh my gosh. This is why, if you ever, anytime I do any, sorry, that was really funny. Anytime I do, my weird skits I do, because I, for whatever reason, really like on my YouTube channel to, put a mustache on my face and pretend to be a guy, but not even really, just, for absolute ridiculousness. And I swear, I talk in, the weirdest voices that I don't think I could ever replicate ever if I tried. It's some I open my mouth and I feel like just some weird stuff comes out. I'm like, what was that accent? Why are you talking like that? You weren't even trying to play a character. You're just being weird. So there you go, everybody. My terrible British accent, which we shall never speak of ever again. Oh yes, when I was my Polaroid video. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see, my Polaroid video had a skit in it. Oh, I don't know how many of you guys have seen that video. I don't feel like it has as many views as it should have had because I thought it was a cinematic masterpiece, but whatever. But I had the absolute time of my life making that. I did an entire little skit about the founder of Polaroid, Edwin Land, and like how he, like, I think he like dropped out of college because he was like, I don't need this, man, I'm better than this. And then he like goes on to invent Polaroid and like all this really crazy, complicated chemical stuff. And I was actually recently just watching a documentary on Polaroid. And they were talking about how like the chemical formula in Polaroid film or like instant film, the chemicals in them that actually make, the film develop instantly, is the most complicated man-made chemical stuff like on the earth. Like it's like the most complicated chemical somebody came up with. And I'm like, man, Edwin Land was out here like wildin'. He was like, bruh, I'm just gonna make this instant film and make it work. And he did, and man, was a genius. But yeah, I did. So I did a skit for that one. Anybody seen my video about Lisa Meitner? I just literally talked to myself for like 10 minutes as I pretended to interview her as me. Like I was her interviewing myself as an interviewer. I don't know if anybody else. I thought it was a hilarious time. My Marie Tharp one was like I was like Marie Tharp, I think, was one of the first maybe 5 videos I ever posted. That one was funny. There's a point in her life where she got told by like her male colleagues that her research was just girl talk, but her research was like, discovering the fact that continental plate theory existed, and they're like, oh, that's just girl talk. And I thought it'd be hilarious to make a skit out of that. What makes it a complicated chemical? So it's not actually, maybe phrase that wrong. The chemical itself, I don't believe, is what is complicated, but it is the mixture of chemicals and how they're all deployed in time that makes it a really complicated chemical process. So the what am I trying to cut here real quick? 3. Okay. So like to develop film itself, just a roll of film, you have to have like a developer that actually like changes the image, like the exposed film into the image, and then you have to have some sort of stop solution that stops the developer, and then you have to have a fixer which ends up like making sure the film is no longer light sensitive and the picture stays there. And then if you have color film, it gets even more complicated because you have to throw in other dyes and things that convert to different colored dyes to form your colored image. And when you're developing film, normally this all happens in like 3 separate steps. You put the developer on, you take it off, you put the stopper on, you take it off. But in an instant film, all that is happening when you take a picture and it shoots out of the camera, it all happens inside one space, inside like a minute. And so in order to get the timing of all those different layers correct is what is so complicated. Like it has to develop, but it's got to not be exposed to light before it's fixed, or else the image gets ruined. All the color dyes have to work out, but it has to do it in the right order, the right time delay, that it doesn't like try to fix the image before it's even developed. Like I actually cannot believe that I can't believe it works. Instant film in general is something that I can't believe works. Instant film particularly is like, and I think I'm not going to say this exactly right because I don't quite remember all the details, but from the idea, so please don't quote me on this, go rewatch my Polaroid video if you want actual facts. I think from the like having the idea for an instant film camera, for the Polaroid camera and Polaroid film, from that idea it took Edwin Land maybe like 3 to 5 years to execute like black and white film for it, and just like to come up with the whole idea to do black and white. And then it took him like maybe 10 more years after that, a much longer period of time, to figure out how to make color work. So it just shows you how much more complicated color was. Because I mean, he had to design the film and the camera and the whole system, and that only took him a couple years. And then, but then just to add color into that mix took him another like 10 to 15. It is insane. Okay. Yeah, it's crazy. Like I've made some videos about it on my channel. I'm also very much into film photography. And so we have our own little dark room that we're hoping to expand in the future. Oh, that's another possible future video idea, as the money and time for renovating our garage allows, into a science lab dark room. But it does take like a good amount of work to just develop film in a dark room. It takes a good amount of time. And like not to mess up your image, not to do anything wrong. So the fact that like Edwin Land managed to get all of that stuff into like a piece of plastic paper that could develop in a minute and show like a pretty reliable image is insane. So if you happen to own like an Instax or a Polaroid camera, any instant camera, next time you use it, just like think about how crazy it is. It's literally like having a chemistry lab in your pocket. It's so cool. It actually probably, I mean, it has more chemicals in it than my C-Star lab did, because we had no chemicals. But yeah, it's, people are wild. Some people are just so smart and so innovative that I just am in awe. And the discoverer, founder, developer, whatever, of the Polaroid and instant film is one of those people. Working our way down the list. Okay, we're on light tan solid fabric, which I think we determined was this one. Because this is, I think, just the tan solid fabric. So this is lighter. Let's see, I dropped that out. Yeah, humans, like, are crazy. The stuff people have managed to invent over the years, like, I'm especially fascinated with, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm kind of fascinated with workarounds for, like, things we didn't have today and how much better they, like, work. So, like, for example, like, film versus digital photography, like, people came up with film a while ago, and it works so well that even us, like, with our, like, guess digital technology, like, still can't necessarily replicate, like, the quality of that film. Or, like, all my, I have, like, a sewing machine that goes on a treadle table that's powered by foot. Before they had, like, electricity or a motor to power it. And they were like, hey, we could figure out how to, like, power this using that, like, using a leather belt and, like, a wheel, basically. And, like, how much, I mean, like, to a certain extent, you're just like, how much better some of that stuff works than my modern day technology. I mean, my like sewing machine over 100 years old, like, holds up better than my sewing machine that's like 2 years old. Like, it's just, it's very interesting to me. I think people are so talented. Or, like, even thinking about, like, all the old buildings and, like, having to build or do all that, like old cathedrals and stuff like that, like old stained glass work, old stone carvings, all the stuff they would do by hand. And it's like, oh my gosh, that's great. Like, I don't know. Love people doing stuff, even if it isn't easy. Wait, that's not right. I can't. Wait, that is right. Okay. Whew. I know I made this joke several times, but really, guys, counting is hard. Kind of reminds me of math, where like I'd get in, like when I was like in calculus and stuff like that, and I'd get all the calculus stuff right, and then I would like mess up on like multiplication, and it's like the simple math. The simple math is always the hardest because you're not paying as much attention to it. Oh. Oh my goodness, so much to do. One strip of each. I think this is the most amount of fabrics that I've ever put into a quilt. This is also only the second time, truly, I guess, that I have followed. Like, I don't usually use kits. I usually like design it by myself and make it my own. But this quilt kit was just so pretty that I needed it. Hey, do I have a favorite doctor from Doctor Who? Okay, so I will preface this by saying that I haven't watched old Doctor Who because I didn't really have a lot of time to watch it because there's a lot of it, and I didn't have a way to watch it. And I also haven't seen anybody since What's-Her-Face. Well, What's-Her-Face gives it away. The one female doctor whose name I cannot remember. I haven't seen any episodes since her because I also don't have a way to watch it anymore. But so I am well aware this is a small range, and I probably sound like I'm speaking nonsense to people who don't know what Doctor Who is. But my favorite doctor is the 9th Doctor. Thank you, Jodie Whittaker. I kept wanting to say Jodie Benson, which I know is the person who voices the Little Mermaid, so it's clearly not her, but I knew it was Jodie. My favorite doctor from Doctor Who is the 9th Doctor, is Christopher Eccleston. Probably partially, maybe, I don't know if it's because, that's where I started, that's when I started watching it, and, that's the first episodes I saw, so I grew to really like him. I just feel like he, again, I'm sorry if anybody doesn't watch Doctor Who, I just feel like he was a very good, representation of the character as being very merciful, I guess is the right word. I feel like he was, even when it came down to people trying to kill him and these aliens trying to kill him and all this weird stuff trying to kill him, he was still very much always wanted to save everybody, even if they were trying to kill him. And I think some of that got lost in the other doctors as time went on. Yeah, David Tennant, also great. I didn't really enjoy Matt Smith very much, which I feel like is a unpopular opinion. And I also really did like Peter Capaldi, I think, especially near the, his second to last season, I really enjoyed. And if any of you guys don't know what we're talking about, Doctor Who is a fun British show. It's been on forever because the main character basically regenerates. He comes back to life after he dies, and so the main character can be played by different actors. That's part of the storyline, so hence it's been on forever, and every doctor is a little bit different in their character, and so people have favorites and stuff like that. It's a pretty good show. It's odd at times and kind of hard to explain plot lines of things at times, but I need to go back to watching it. It is a commitment though, because now I'm I don't know what stuff has happened, and gotta go back and remember, and then sometimes it's sad, and I'm like, oh, do I really want my heart ripped out by this episode again? Like, there's been a few episodes that I, like, simply have not ever rewatched because I was like, I can't handle that emotional trauma again. But it's okay. Fictional stories can't hurt you, right? Whew. 2 5 by 5. I feel like I'm just I'm gonna cut all these piles of fabric out, and they're just gonna be laying about my workspace, and I'm gonna forget what any of them are for. And I'm gonna have to resort them all back out again. Good times. Okay. Ooh, that's light tan solid is completed. Woo woo. Okay. Neutral dot print. Here we go. Yes, I have just been cutting cloth for 2 hours. And guess what? I've released coming up on 3 hours. According to my checklist, I will be cutting cloth for definitely until the end of this. Sorry, friends. We'll have to do another one if you guys can stand me, where I might actually sew something. And probably even multiple days worth of cutting out fabric. Okay, yes, sweet. Another one. Let's go. This takes, honestly, I guess I could do this with nobody watching, but that would be kind of sad. Yeah, so my mother-in-law she's the one who taught me how to quilt, and she has this tool that it's called an AccuQuilt, and if you ever remember, like, growing up, or I had these in my school when I was a kid, but, like, they would be these wooden or foam blocks, and they had a little blade inside of them, and you'd put paper on top of it and, like, roll it through a little roller, and then it would press down on the blade, and it would press into the paper and cut the paper for, like, stuff like bulletin boards. So she has one of those, but it's for fabric, for quilting. So instead of having to sit here, it still takes a while, but less time. So instead of having to sit here and hand cut out these pieces with a ruler and a rotary blade, you can just layer the fabric on, roll it, and it cuts it out. But that's it, which is how I've made most of my other quilts up until this date, is using those pieces. But that's at her house, not in my house. And also, you have to, like, have all of the blocks to make the sizes you want, and I don't think she has most of these sizes, so I'd have to do it by hand anyway. So that's something that makes your job easier. But I have chosen difficulty in my life, and will be sitting here till the end of my days cutting out fabric. Because what is making my life easy? Not really that my life is that hard, I can't complain. I just like to overcomplicate projects of my own choosing. As you do. Is anybody slated to be getting any snow soon? I feel like it's just been snowing a lot. Like, especially, it's just been, like, extra cold recently. We're, I think, supposed to get maybe some snow tomorrow, but by snow, I mean it's probably gonna, like, snow half an inch and melt by the time I wake up. Anybody got any real snow going on? I forgot what I was doing. Oh, yep. Colorado, yes. That's a lot of snow. I got family out in Wyoming, and they're just like, got so much snow right now, too. I know I got some more family out in, like, up in West Virginia, also snowing a lot there, too. And then I just have, like, friends from grad school, in, oh my gosh, my brain's not working. My friends from grad school keep sending me pictures up there in Indiana, like, oh my gosh, my brain's not working. Like, oh, they keep sending me pictures of their weather forecast where it's like the high is like -2, and they're like, please send warmth. And I'm like, I'm so sorry that you have to go to class in that. One, two. Okay. Oh, I am located in Virginia. I feel like I can share that because, like, if you watch a couple of my videos, from places I visit, you could figure it out. Won't say exactly where, but I just feel like, I don't know, like, you could figure it out if you just watch some places I go on some science field trips. Oh, cool. Yeah, I've lived here most of my life. Love it sometimes, hate it other times. But luckily, it's not as cold as it is in a lot of other places in the country, so we're gonna take it. But yeah, sometimes it snows, sometimes it doesn't. It usually doesn't snow here. But it's been way colder here this winter than it typically gets. Okay, Brianna, I can do this. 5. Can do some math. I feel like sometimes I miss, like, I wish it would snow more, but then it's like, the snow does come, and I'm like, never mind. Go away. Oh, yeah. Go be productive, I guess. If you have to. I'm clearly being incredibly productive right now. Let's see. Oh, geez. The other skill that you really put to the test when quilting or cutting out anything is being like, can I cut in a straight line? And you may think that with a ruler, you can. Then you realize you actually can't. Doing great over here, guys. Be curious to know when I finally get all this cut out, how quickly the rest of this goes together. Because it still is like, it's like cool. I cut all these pieces apart, but now I gotta like sew them all back together. Oh well. That's where we're at. We started the project, now we're committed. Although I know a lot of my people, like a lot of my friends who also like craft with me, tend to like never finish their projects. So I guess it's always an option. But you guys have dedicated your time to spending this with me, and I feel like I can't not ever finish this project because that would betray you guys, and that feels rude. Okay, neutral dot print complete. Now we're moving on to what is called the white dot print. Thriving. Oh gosh. Gotta stretch out the legs. Alright. We've talked about so much. We're coming up on 3 hours here. I feel like we're doing great. Can't believe y'all have stuck around or left and come back. Either way, appreciate it. Okay. I love how I just like this is very repetitive, but every single time I still have to like look to figure out what I'm supposed to be doing. Like I still can't remember that I need to cut out like 10 by 10 inch squares. Every single time I have to keep looking to figure out what I'm supposed to be doing. Oof, that was terrible. Yikes. Okay. Anybody have a subject idea next? Anything else you want to hear me talk about? Any more questions? All right, we have a new person here. Hello, welcome. We are cutting out fabric for days and listening to me prattle on about who knows what. Let's see. Has anybody read any good books recently? Well, if you guys are book readers, I love to read. And I mostly read a lot of a lot of scientist biographies, but I got a couple new ones for Christmas. So I'm currently reading one called Portrait of a Young Woman as a Scientist. And it's about a scientist who worked on the Psyche mission for NASA. Her name was Lindy, and I don't know what her last name was because it's an autobiography, so I just know her first name is Lindy. Gotta hit the ironing board. Ugh. Better. The Imposium. I haven't heard of that one. Probably just gonna get a bunch of books. Okay. I'll say probably just gonna get a bunch of books that I've never heard of, which is fine by me, because to look them up. Ooh, Crime and Punishment. That's intense. I think I tried to start Crime and Punishment and didn't make it very far into it. Some of those like classics I can read, and some of them I just cannot. So good for you for reading that. It's like I tried to start like War and Peace, and I got like 200 pages in, and I was like, I'm so confused right now. Ooh, Lord of the Rings. Okay, I don't know why I cannot get through, like, I have seen all the movies because my friend was like, you have to watch all of these. I love the vibes. I have read The Hobbit. I just, for whatever reason, cannot get into them. Because I've read Fellowship of the Ring a couple of times, and I get stuck at the same place every time halfway through the second book where I'm just like so confused. I'm like, listen, all these people have like such a similar name. I don't know what's going on. But I keep trying that one. Like, I don't hate it. I just get stuck. Like, there's just like so many characters that I can't keep track of all of them. But at this point in my life, I tend to read a lot of nonfiction. I've been trying to read Demons of Unrest from Erik Larson. I've been trying to read that for like probably over a year now, except it's so popular at my library. I've been like on hold, and then like I started reading it but couldn't get through it, but like throughout the Civil War, before like my like checkout time was up. So then I like put it on hold again, and then it came up to read like during Christmas when all my family was here. So then I like couldn't read it. So then I'm like on hold again. So probably should just go out and buy the book. But why do that when I can wait for a year and a half and read it for free? Yeah, I say same author as Devil in the White City. I just cut out too many pieces. I really enjoy Devil in the White City. It's about America's first serial killer, H.H. Holmes, in the Chicago's World Fair. I've read several other books by the same author, Erik Larson. He's a really good author. He's really good if you like to read like it's very historical, it's all true, but he writes in a very storytelling narrative fashion, so it doesn't feel like you're just reading a bunch of facts. I also really enjoyed, what's the one? He's got one about like the invention of Marconi wireless. So that one, I think that was Thunderstruck. Somebody might correct me if I'm wrong. I think that one was Thunderstruck. It's about the invention of Marconi wireless, and like using it to try to catch like a murderer who was like had fled the country on a boat and had crossed countries. Yeah, he's a good author. So one day I might get to read it. If you're into history. If you're not into history, I would not read any of his books because they're all history, but they're like fun to read history. They're not dry. But I'm excited to get through more of my scientist biographies I got for Christmas. I got like some ones about space. I'm trying to think. I got a couple that are like 100 innovative women in science, stuff like that. And then I got like one that's about like people who got their like stolen science, so people who like discovered stuff and then like got their discovery stolen by somebody else. And then I'm trying to remember. I'm gonna go pick them out real quick. Let's see. Gotta find them on my shelf. Ooh. Good. Stand up. Stretch the legs. Okay, back with some books. I don't remember if I got a couple more. I might have. I know the one I'm in the middle of reading is not currently in here, but so I got The Sky is for Everyone. It's about women astronomers. So if I had to guess, probably like I don't know. Okay. Women astronomers. This is the stolen science one I was talking about. It's like 13 untold stories of scientists and inventors, almost written out of history. That one was really interesting. I did read that one already. And then like Women of Science, 100 Inspirational Lives. This one was fun. I actually used this one to help me pick out people I was going to do for Women's History Month. Because I was like, I need more women scientists. And then this one is not about women scientists at all, but this is the Film Developers Cookbook, which I'm very excited to read more about because it's literally like a chemistry textbook about developing film. I'm very excited to read it and learn. Ooh. Okay. 3 hours into the live stream. Is my tea drinkable temperature? We did it, folks! We're finally at a drinkable tea temperature. Woohoo! Yes, it has been 3 hours. I started this at 1 Eastern. It is now past 4 Eastern. It's been quite the journey that we've been on. I don't know where this fabric came from. I'm glad somebody thinks it's flown by. I don't actually know what's going on anymore. Wait, I just found new fabric in a new pile. Okay, I'm glad people are enjoying this. That makes me feel better. Okay. Need some chapstick. I've been talking too much. Oh, no. I have to go back to some I already cut. Okay. So 3 hours later, and I think approximately halfway through our checklist. Thanks for joining me on this journey. The piles of cut scraps that will one day turn into a quilt. Okay. So now I need my light tan salad back. Everybody remember light tan salad? Oh yes, good work, light tan salad. Whew. I need to cut. Now, in case anybody is wondering, this is going to continue until 5 Eastern, so we have 50 minutes left. So it's not over yet. Woohoo. One and a quarter. Oh my gosh, it's so tiny. Hold on, I'm gonna cut this. It's a 1 1/4 inch strip of fabric. which is so tiny. Look at how skinny that is. I feel like I can barely even sew that. It's 1 inch. So yeah, I will probably I feel like this is going well, so that means we get more live streams in the future, and definitely we'll have to continue on with some crafting because I gotta finish this quilt for you guys, and I'll come up with new projects too. But I'll probably also do some where I do find some like whatchamacallits. What's the word I'm looking for? Some like science experiments or science demos, stuff like that to kind of interact with and do. Like show you some science experiments you can do at home if you're interested, or you could just watch me do them. Stuff like that. I think that was the other thing people voted for. The feedback you guys give me is also very helpful. So if you ever have like literally any suggestions or questions, ideas, like I'm happy to take them. Last week's video was entirely based on a comment left on one of my videos about somebody who just wanted to know more about bananas, and now we got a whole video about it. So I love you guys' questions because I could come up with stuff, but you guys know what you want too, and I'm here to entertain you. So a cooking science video, that could be fun. I've done some baking science, and so like baking cookies, brownies, cake, and I've done candy science. So yeah, I'll think about some cooking science. Cooking is so much chemistry. It's kind of crazy. It's really honestly crazy to me. Sorry, I thought I just misread that. It's kind of crazy to me how much science is in everything, and how when you really stop to think about it, you're like, whoa, that is a lot of science, you know? So like the fact that, yeah, like cooking is so much chemistry. I don't know if any of you guys also used to watch Good Eats, like from Without and Brown on the Food Network. Loved that show as a kid and growing up. Like, he would always talk about the like science of cooking and have ridiculous puppets, and honestly probably shaped a lot of who I am today from that. But that was a good show that just showed how much science was in cooking. Oh yeah, thank you. The sugar and temperature one was fun to make and sweet to make. So much candy after that. But it's so cool how like even with sugar, just a change in the temperature of the sugar changes the entire texture of a candy. And like you eat those candies and you're like, oh, I've never really given a thought. And then next thing you know, you're like eating a caramel and you're like, oh my gosh, like it's this color and it tastes this way because the sugar got heated so high that it started to break down into other reactions and form more complicated products than just sugar by itself. Yeah, as you could probably tell, great fun at parties. I remember one time in college, it's final season, and I was studying for biochemistry, and whenever I study a lot and have a lot of information in my head, I just tend to like regurgitate it back out. It's my way of remembering. And so I'm like sitting there in the dining hall with all my friends, and one of the big things we did in biochemistry was like, how do you digest food? Like metabolism. I'm like sitting there describing each chemical, like what's happening to the food as they put it in their mouths and how it's like being broken down by their saliva and blah, blah, blah. And I could tell all of my friends were done with me. Oh no, yeah, candy making definitely wild. Well, honestly, like sugar is kind of chemically similar to glass, so that's why you can like you could blow sugar, you could pour sugar, you could like in the same way that you could like pour and blow glass. Like they behave kind of similarly when they're melted down, which is crazy cool. No, I don't know if any of you guys have like talents that you like wish you could learn. Well, the one I wish I could learn is glass blowing. I would love to learn glass blowing. I just like it looks like so cool. It looks like so much fun. I'm sure it's really really difficult, but it looks so cool. It was actually at my grad school, they had a glass blowing shop in the chemistry department, and you could take glass blowing, and I didn't because the class filled up really fast, and I wasn't there long enough to stay on the waiting list for that long. But it was cool. So like if you're like doing research and you needed, like came up with an idea for something glass that you want to make, like a different type of flask or something, you could custom make your own glassware for the lab and your research work, like custom, like what's the word for when you're like asking an artist to like make a piece of something for you. What was the word? Anybody know what the word is? Commission! Thank you! I was like, I could want to say customize, and I was like, that's not right. Yes, commission. You could commission a piece of unique glassware for your lab in the glass blowing workshop at my grad school. Thanks. I did that. They also had a 3D printer, like a whole machining shop, so you could actually commission any, like, to build stuff from there that you needed for your research as well. Actually had a few pieces 3D printed I designed while I was there, because they cost like a couple $100 to buy, like on the market. And I was like, listen, I think I could design this in 3D software and print these for like $10. Let me try this before you spend like $400 on a plastic holder. That isn't actually worth $400, but this is the only company that makes them, so they feel like they can charge $400. Still warm. And extra hot because I burned my tongue. Okay. Let's see. Ooh, we're back to the neutral dot print. That's not the neutral dot print. This is the neutral dot print. Ooh, that is true. I could make literally endless topics on how chemistry makes up the world. I think that's actually kind of how I end up on the topics I do in between other videos. So like in between a bigger project, some of the stuff does like my Polaroid video came up because my mom gifted me her Fujifilm Instax camera, and I just like was like, how the heck does this work? And it was interesting enough that I was like, I'm gonna make a video about it. Same thing with kind of the candy making video. I was kind of like, I gotta make some candy. Oh, like, wait, this is so much science that I want to learn more about it and share it with you guys. Which is kind of a nice thing about, like, the niche of YouTube I found myself in, is I really do have, like, an endless supply of random topics I can talk about, as long as you guys will continue to listen to me. Oh yeah, electronics, chemistry, and physics. It's crazy. Like, if you ever stop and think, like, oh, this is, like, well, like, I mean, the fact that I'm live streaming to you guys right now because of, like, the built-in camera in my computer and then, like, transmitting it across different networks and, like, all of that stuff. The fact that, like, this even works is it's crazy. And sometimes, what? Oh my gosh, I can't read. These threes look like ones. Sometimes I just like to stop and think about how crazy a world we live in and how it works. Oh yeah, heck yeah. We love electrons. Electrons making the world work. I feel like so there'd be like different things in my classes that would be like core tenets of the class that our teachers would be like, listen, if you walk away from this class and you don't know anything else, here's what you need to know. And one of those, like the one for organic chemistry, was like, if anything's happening, an electron is moving. Nothing can happen unless an electron moves. Wow, that's wild. Someone calculated that all the electrons involved in the internet weigh as much as a strawberry. That's crazy because that's so little, but also electrons weigh so little that that's a lot of electrons. And then the other one, so like for multiple of my classes, the other one was that water is maximally dense at 4 degrees Celsius. So you know how so ice floats. So ice is less dense than water. But so water, as it gets near its freezing point, gets denser and denser and denser until it hits below 4 degrees Celsius, and then it gets less dense. Kind of goes whoop. And so anytime our teacher was like, okay, if you don't know what the answer to something is, just write down water is maximally dense at 4 degrees Celsius, and I'll give you like half a point for it. Or maybe not half a point, like a quarter of a point for it. Yes, this is why fish don't die in lakes. So yeah, this is why like it's a really important thing that ice floats so that fish don't die in lakes, so the water will freeze at the top and there's still water below. But then it also drives in lakes and stuff like that. It drives nutrient turnover because I didn't even think I was going to talk about this on this live stream, but here we are. So lakes will go through different like nutrient turnover depending on the season. So when it's cold in the water, for example, is like the water at the top has gotten really cold, it's gotten to 4 degrees Celsius, it will drop to the bottom, displacing the water below it and any nutrients on the bottom. And that water, well, as the water sinks down, more water goes back up to the top that's warmer, and then it'll get colder and it'll continually like float and sink. And as it does that, as the temperature of the water changes and so does its density, then it dredges up and it mixes up the nutrients in lakes as well. So that was the big one. So it was the two big things I learned in college. Water is maximally dense at 4 degrees Celsius, and if something's happening, an electron is moving. So there you go. Remember that. If you want to, you don't have to. There is no quiz on this channel. That'd be terrible. I would never. I mean, I don't really know how I would quiz you guys on this channel, but there's no pop quiz. We're here for the love of learning. I'm not even sure I'm going to be able to stand after this. Just sitting on the floor cutting out fabric for 20 years. Okay, so just... Actually surprised my Apple Watch hasn't yelled at me to stand. I must be standing just enough to not make it mad. Wait, how many of those to cut out? 1, 2, 3, 4. There it is. All the hand movement is convincing it that you're up and maybe that's what it is. It doesn't know that I haven't actually stood up. And 7 3/4 of an inch. Okay. The Earth is the only planet we know of with a fire. Huh. I guess. I don't... Interesting. Yeah. Because I guess we have fire because we've combusted things, but planets don't really combust. Stars are combustion. I guess, yeah, for actual fire, you would need oxygen. This is wild. I've never considered this. Yeah, I've not considered this. I don't know that much about other planets to, I guess, fully weigh in on this. Because that's not my area of expertise. But that is an interesting thought. Do other planets need fire, though? That's the real question. One, 2, 3. Honestly, the fact that like we are alive on this planet is also incredibly wild. There's so many things that it could have gone wrong. Neutral dot print cut again. Woohoo! Tired. Yeah, we're always trying to figure out stuff. I'm very impressed by people who can figure out stuff. It goes back to what I was talking about earlier about like creativity and all this stuff. You need like such creative people to like figure out how this works and like to even come up with some of the ideas. I feel like you need to be creative to even be like, yeah, totally, I think this could be a thing. And it's like, who are you smoking that you thought this could be a thing? But it worked. So the cellular process oxygen. I'm not sure about the processing oxygen and combustion, but mainly because I'm not that familiar with how we process oxygen on the cellular level. So I don't want to talk about it and make up an answer and be wrong, because that's not good science. But I definitely, like, I mean, even if we're not involved, I guess, in like combustion and stuff. Yeah, maybe future video. The fact that we can, like, have fire in the first place definitely got us that far, because at least I know, like, cooking food is a big is a big part of it, introducing different nutrients in us and building us as a society. Oh yeah, reading ancient Greek stuff is wild. That's why, like, or even past, like, ancient Greeks, like, that's why, like I did the video on, like, phlogiston, like, how people thought fire worked is, like, absolutely crazy, like. But it's one of those things where you're like, well, they got as far as they could based on what they could observe at the time. And the fact they could even, what's the word I'm looking for? The fact they could even get that far is kind of impressive. That they're like, we're kind of almost right. You know? Like, not almost right, but that they were on the right track is impressive. I'm gonna write down all these future video ideas we're coming up with. See, you guys give me so many ideas. Because I can only know so much. So you inspire me to learn more. Wait, what am I doing? Ah. Oh, I actually put the blade cover back on my blade. I never do that. Well, he's famous for having like scissors and just like rotary cutter blades just laying around the floor and pins all over, like on the floor. It's a very hazardous place to walk. Okay, what's happening in this comment? Greeks. Oh, so we're on something about Greeks. Yeah, they're interesting. But they also, form the basis of how we learn stuff today, so. But I think, like, science especially is always, like, being able to accept the fact that you are wrong about something and, like, moving on and being able to find a new answer about it. Because if you didn't accept the fact that you were wrong, we wouldn't get anywhere in science. Like, theories and stuff like that are only as good as they are until there's no more evidence to support them. And then we find a new theory. Subcut into 4-2. Alright, I don't even know what's going on in the comment section anymore. Crazy stuff. But okay. Two inches. Oh, in case anybody's wondering, I am now cutting into the tan solid. Oh no, we're not taking a break. We're almost to the end. I've been here this long. We're gonna keep going. Oh my gosh. I didn't even eat my snack. I haven't gotten hungry yet. I'm not quitting in 25 minutes. We're resting for the day. It's not quitting. It's how long it originally was scheduled to be. Even if I wasn't live streaming, I think 4 hours of cutting fabric would be more than enough for the day. I think this is actually more than I normally would do in a day. I've just really committed myself to this. I'm very like task oriented, so I'm like, I want to get this done. Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited to share more chemistry knowledge and excited to share more crafting. I think the crafting is some of my favorite stuff I do on here, mainly because like I don't find anybody else doing it or like at least talking about that kind of stuff. So like personally for me, if I was watching, like I would love to watch somebody like make a periodic table sweater on YouTube, but I haven't found anybody else who is. So why not me? Like I would watch a live stream of somebody talking about some science and making a sea star quilt, but I don't know if I could find that. So why not me? I don't know, trying to fill a niche that I don't know exists. Oh, guitars. Oh, that's cool. I'm impressed with people who can build musical instruments because that takes so many precise measurements to be like to sound the way they're supposed to sound, I guess. If I could do a collab with one other science YouTuber, who would you want to work with? Oh, that's a good question. Let's see. This may be terrible of me. I don't watch a lot of other science YouTubers. Not because I don't respect them, but mainly because at the end of going to science class every day, I didn't want to watch more science. So I honestly watch more craft YouTubers than I do science YouTubers. So if I had wanted to collaborate with a craft YouTuber or just like a YouTuber I watch, I would love to collaborate with Rachel Maxey. If anybody knows who she is, she's kind of the YouTuber I watch the most. Other than that, I do really like Hank Green and like SciShow, just because they were like I grew up watching them for like high school and stuff like that, and they talk about a lot of really fun topics that could be fun. But I do want to go out there and find part of what I'm working on in this like phase of being a YouTuber is looking for more people who are in my niche. And my gosh, I keep using the word niche and not in like the ecological sense, which is what I had been using it for up until this point in my life. But finding more people who do what I do and like getting to know them and like it's like networking within my actual community. I am still not keeping track of what I'm supposed to be cutting. Sorry. I really don't. Believe it or not, since I've been talking to people for 3 hours and 40 minutes today, I don't actually like talking to people. I'm a very shy person. So for example, if I were to ever run into anybody who watches this channel in real life, as of right now, I haven't done that. So I don't actually know how I'd react. It probably wouldn't be pretty. I'd probably like run away and turn bright red. So I'm not very great at networking. So that's one of my goals is to work on to be better this year is to find more science YouTubers or science communicators and talk to them and build a relationship with them. That's a personal goal for myself because I would rather never talk. Like, honestly, part of what I love is being a YouTuber is the fact like I don't have to have meetings with other people if I don't want to. Like, I just work according to my own whatever I want to do. So, yeah. Yeah, so on that, I don't watch Nile Red / Nile Blue. But I'll have to check them out. Oh, I know who I've kind of have met Emily Grassley. I forgot about her. I follow her on Instagram. She talked at a conference I went to and is actually one of the people who so like weirdly inspired me to like want to be a science communicator too. I think I still follow her on Instagram. But I remember her talking at that conference and I was like, oh, she's so cool. Like, I want to do what she's doing. So maybe I should figure out what she's up to and stuff like that. Because I know she used to work for like the Chicago Field Museum. I don't think she does anymore. She gave a whole talk because like whenever I went to that conference, she was like doing a oh my gosh, doing a like road trip across like a prehistoric road trip, some sort of special called that, and she was like going to all these dinosaur dig sites, and I was like, I want to go to these dinosaur dig sites. But yeah, on the mission to find some more people to talk to and figure out how to like build and like break into this community. I feel like I've built like a little community here on YouTube, and now it's time to like be like, oh, what's going on with everybody else too. But again, I'm very shy, so sometimes that's hard. Oh, that's so cool. Fossils are cool. I went to the Indianapolis Children's Museum, which may be the coolest thing to do in Indiana ever. Not sorry if anybody's here is from Indiana. It's not the most exciting state, but the Indianapolis Children's Museum, so good. And they have a dinosaur exhibit, whole dinosaur exhibit, Dino Dome, and people working there like on fossils and stuff like that. They have dig sites out in Wyoming, Montana, and we were talking to one of the scientists like working on the bones and stuff, and she was like, "Do you want to touch it?" And I was like, "Wait, you're gonna let me touch like an actual?" This was my friend. We were both like, "You're gonna let us touch an actual dinosaur bone, not like a plaster model, like an actual dinosaur bone?" She was like, "Yeah." So we got to touch it, and it was so cool. It was incredibly exciting. You're like, this is, yeah, it was cool. Oh, I have to cut more of this. Interested in mycology. I'm not a super amount. Mushrooms are really cool, and I like I know a little bit about them. I'd probably like to learn more. My roommate in grad school was a forestry master's student, and she was like an amateur, I guess, like mushroom forager. And so every once in a while I would try, like, she only ate mushrooms that she was like 100% confident. Like, she's like, there's no other mistake. Like, you can't mistake this for anything else. And so one time we found a giant puffball mushroom in the woods where we lived. And if you guys don't know what a puffball mushroom is, look it up. But they're like these giant mushrooms that almost like look like a volleyball. Like they're that big. And they're edible. And so we brought it home and like chopped it, like made slices of it, and like put cheese and like pepperoni, like decorated, like put pizza toppings on it, and like used that as the crust and made mushroom pizza. But the crust was a giant puffball mushroom. That was fun. So mushrooms are very cool, and I love seeing. Yeah, that's exactly what we did. Use it as the pizza base, and I love like if I'm out in the woods, like on a hike or anything, and you like see like any mushrooms growing out of logs, I'm like, oh, look at the mushroom. We always gotta stop and look at the mushrooms. So I would love to learn more about them at some point in my life. That's true. It is fun to go into the woods and go on hikes. Mushrooms are just so cool. Like, I love seeing mushrooms growing out of logs and just knowing they're like, whoop, breaking down the log into nutrients and everything. Cycle of life, man. Mushrooms are cool. They're also like a weird, not plant, not animal. They're rad. I mean, honestly, I think you'd be hard pressed to find anything that I don't think is cool. I won't lie. Sorry, a little congested there. couldn't be talking for 3 hours and 45 minutes. Oh yeah, I guess some lying up in here. Subcut into 3. I know, there's just like so many subjects that I would love to learn and have to find the time to learn because everything is so interesting. Oh, I guess that's true. I like to attempt to learn languages, but I'm not a language person. I don't, for whatever, like, I don't know, maybe I have too many other things to learn that I am not willing to dedicate enough time to learning a language. That's probably it. But the one I probably know the best, which is a big stretch as to knowing the best, would probably be Japanese. I took a year of it in college, and I have been trying to work on it on Duolingo sparingly as I remember, so I don't forget it, so that I can one day go to Japan and actually know what the heck I'm talking about. But I'm not great at languages. Would not put that as one of my strong suits. 155. You think sometimes it's also hard to learn a language unless you have like people to consistently speak it with? So like I can try hard, but if I don't like speak it with somebody, it's easy. Like I can remember as much as I want, but I can't always keep it in my head. That is true. Yeah, I think that's actually very true about a lot of things that like we don't know a lot about a lot of things that happen to be pretty critical to life. Or even just you think about how much like little of the ocean we even know about. And that's very critical to our life. But this is why you have people who get PhDs and master degrees and do research in what seems to be an incredibly niche subject. And then like 10 years from now, they're like, bam, this is actually really helpful for you. Aren't you glad you funded me? Okay. We have this section. I have this section left to cut and 11 minutes till the end of this live stream. So that's not going to happen, but we'll definitely pick it up another day. Do you ever see yourself pursuing a PhD? So I don't know how many of you guys were here when I talked about it earlier. I actually did start out my plan to get a master's degree in a PhD program and suffered mentally horribly and decided to leave and get my then like graduated with a master's instead of getting my PhD. I don't know if I would go back to get a PhD. Honestly, like with kind of the way I'm thinking my life is gonna end up, I don't know if I would need one. If I wanted to do something that needed one, I would probably try again, but I need a lot of there's some more personal growth that probably needs to happen before I could do that, or else I think I'll just stress myself back out of it again because I dealt very heavily with like imposter syndrome and never feeling like I was good enough and never being able to relax, like feeling like I constantly always had to be doing something, which doesn't work out that great when you're in a situation like that. So I don't think so, but I wouldn't say like never again. at least without a lot more like just growth in my life, it wasn't a good experience for me. I'm much happier not in a PhD program than I was in a PhD program right now. But that's not to say that wouldn't change in the future. I would like to find some way, though, to, like, get back into doing... Jeez, it's such a horrible cut. Doing a little bit more, like, lab work. So that's kind of, like, we have plans to renovate our garage into a, like, darkroom / science lab. And I want to try to do get much more into, like, the heavy science and chemistry of film photography. And, like, kind of get some more of my... get that feel of like lab work in, but not working in an actual lab. Yeah, can I get an honorary doctorate in how to deal with bullies on YouTube? I don't know if a university will give that out. YouTube University. Yeah, like, I enjoy lab work. I like being in a lab. I miss being in a lab. I just don't miss, like, the stress. I also don't miss having, like, a $1 million mass spectrometer that doesn't work and nobody knows why. Because that's what was going on in my lab. Just saying. Sorry. We had, like, a very expensive... Well, I mean, just, like, having super expensive equipment. And then, like, it would just break. And then our advisor would be like, fix it. And I'd be like, there are people who, like, get degrees in this and get job trainings for this. Like, I'm just gonna look up how to repair a $1 million instrument on Reddit and see if anybody has any answers. That's what we literally did. We, like, looked up, like, here, our mass spec is having this issue, and we found, like, a whole Reddit thread about somebody else who had the same issue, and we're like, oh, let's try what they did. They seem to know what they're talking about. Ooh, that could be fun. Figuring out how to live stream looking at stuff underneath a microscope. I would watch that. Ooh. But yeah, so I definitely want to figure out a way to get lab work. Like, to find a way to maybe, like, do some of my own lab work. Because, I mean, like, okay, granted, these people were, like, hecka rich. But people in the 16 and 1700s and earlier had home labs, and they were out here being the forefronts of physics and chemistry. So if they can do it, so can I. I'm just not, like, aristocracy, so it won't be as nice of a private lab, but I can do it too. Just saying. Oh, in case we're wondering, in our last couple of minutes, I am cutting up the pale blue seashell fabric, which literally just looks white on this camera. But it has a seashell pattern on it. That is fish. It has a seashell pattern on it, but it is light blue. Yes, anybody's watch helps this channel a lot. Anybody being here helps this channel a lot. Thank you all so much for being here. What am I trying to do? I'm trying to cut more fabric in these last 5 minutes of life. Not life. That sounds really sad. These last 5 minutes of this live stream, we will cut more fabric. So exciting. I promise one day I'll actually get to sewing this thing. And that'll be even more exciting. And then even maybe one day it might be finished. And it can grace the couch in glory. And if anybody tries to use it, I'll be like, hey, you can't use that. I spent a lot of hours making it. Will you be using a vintage sewing machine to sew the panels? So there is a good chance that if I do, I will probably do this as like some more live stream content. So I will probably actually use my treadle machine to do this for the purpose of the fact that my modern sewing machine with an actual motor and plug sounds horrific, and I don't want to subject all of you guys to listening to that for several hours, as well as I don't think I could talk over it for you to be able to hear me. So for the purposes, of just like viewer enjoyment, and I'm gonna be using the vintage machine, so you can actually hear me and hear yourselves think. Yeah, I can definitely show you guys how my machine works. It's cool. I love the vintage machines because you can actually like take them apart and like clean them and oil them and everything and actually like fix them. Whereas if my modern machine goes out, where like I'm out of machine, because I think it would be more expensive to fix it than it costs. Yeah, thank you all guys for coming. I really enjoyed this. It was a lot of talking. I hope you guys enjoyed all of this as well. I'll show a little, oh gosh, if I can move. Let's see, show a little. Here's all the pieces that I've cut out. It doesn't look like a lot, but I promise it has been a lot. And here is, let's see, I think I just actually checked one more off. Here's where we stand in the checklist of fabric. So that's how we're going to leave it for today. Thank you guys again for joining this live stream, and hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And another video comes out on this upcoming Friday, and I will plan more live stream content hopefully soon as my time allows. Oh goodness. All right, I'm gonna go try to stand up. So goodbye everyone, and thank you all so much for coming. Keep it sciencey.